King Richard takes the day. 1980, it's Buddy Baker in the fastest 500-mile race ever. Strategy in the pits, wins for Petty in 81, his 7th Daytona crown. In 82, not even a disintegrating car can stop Bobby Allison. Cale Yarborough just gets by Darrell Waltrip and goes on to win in 83. And again in 84, it's Cale. Today, Cale Yarborough tries for an unprecedented 3rd consecutive victory in this, the Great American Race. CBS Sports presents live, flag-to-flag coverage of the 1985 Daytona 500. It appears that a record crowd, perhaps some 150,000, have filled every seat, every nook and cranny of the infield to enjoy this, the Great American Race, on a glorious sunny day here in Daytona Beach, Florida. And good afternoon to you. I'm Ken Squire, your host for the 1985 Daytona 500. This is stock car racing, and stock car racing is America's own motorsport. This is its most important race. There's more money, there's more prestige, more glory here than in any other stock car race, and conversely, there's more demands, and it is so much more dangerous. Last year, danger was defined as turn 4. Bringing us up to date on that story, the editor-publisher of the National Speed Sport News and our colleague, Chris Economaki.
1 year ago today, the headlines were about Calamity Corner, turn 4 at the Daytona International Speedway, right there, where cars were losing control coming off it, sliding through the infield and crashing with great force into a wall. Car after car came through this section and crashed into the wall, many of them ricocheting back out on the track where they became obstacles for other cars coming down the roadway. As soon as last year's race was over, the Speedway management took action. They built a double-thick, 8-foot concrete wall with dirt in between, and then laid down 15,000 square yards of asphalt here. The reason being that a car sliding on grass sometimes gains speed, where a car sliding on asphalt scrubs the speed off. And the few accidents have taken place this year that have seen cars hit this wall, they have not given it much more than a love tap. And as an interesting sidelight, the 15,000 square yards of asphalt you see here, you could put half of the nation's 1,200 Friday and Saturday night racetracks on it. Back to you, Ken.
Well, thank you, Chris. With 16 cameras, 3 onboard cameras, the Goodyear blimp assisting, we'll try to bring you the speed, the story of the race. And we'll also try to give you some of the texture, the luster of this game. And that belongs to the people involved, the crews, the drivers themselves. They're like your next-door neighbors until they cinch up those seat belts. And one of the most famous is standing by on pit road right now with Mike Joy.
Cale Yarborough, nobody has ever won this race 3 years in a row, and you've got a lot to overcome this week. A brand new car, an engine that tended to overheat on you early in the week. Have you got it all solved, and can you win this race today?
Well, I wish I knew the answer to all those questions. We hope we have our problem solved. You know, it ran good for us in the 125 milers. And as far as winning the race, I think we have as good a shot at it as anybody. This Hardy Ford is running good for us, and Waddell and the entire team has put in a lot of long hours and hard work this week, and I think we got as good a shot as anybody.
You're probably the best guy in this business when the money is on the line on the last lap, but you don't seem too loose walking around this morning. Any butterflies?
Well, you know, we got the fastest field ever here at Daytona, and you're always uptight before this race. This is a big race, and I'm not real uptight. I just got a lot on my mind, I guess, probably like everybody else. But you know, nothing would suit me better than win this thing 3 times in a row, and I'm gonna give it my best shot.
Bill Elliott ran away from the field in his qualifying race. You had to win yours with a last lap slingshot. Can you hang with him?
Well, I don't know. You know, I haven't run with Bill all week since we've been down here. He was in one race, I was in the other. Every time we went out for practice, he was on one end of the racetrack and I was on the other. So I really don't know what's going to happen. We're going to know here in a few minutes.
Well, the fastest driver in this field is right alongside the front row, standing with Chris Economaki.
It has been written that this man, who looks like Huckleberry Finn, sounds like Gomer Pyle, drives like the Dukes of Hazzard. It's Bill Elliott, the fastest human being ever to turn the wheel of a stock car. Bill, you set a 205-mile-an-hour qualifying record. You won your qualifying race by more than 2 miles. If you do that today, you're going to lap the field 3 times. How hard are you going to go?
Well, that's going to be hard to say. You know, there's a lot of other good cars. I only run against half the cars, and I think today will tell the story. There's too many cars left to run out there, and it's a 500-mile race.
What about your personal feelings? People have been pestering you for autographs and everything. You said before that when you get in the car and alone, that's what you're waiting for.
Well, I think the biggest thing I'm waiting for is to get the race underway. You know, once I strap in the car, I know I got a job to do, and I'll go out there and do my best and see how things turn out.
Okay, good luck to you, Bill Elliott. And back to you, Ken Squire.
All right, Chris, sharing our finish line vantage point here is the Trans Am champion of the past, David Hobbs, and the 2-time Grand National champion, winner of 50 Grand National races, Ned Jarrett. Ned, you were a factory driver for some time, and this year I think that's as much a story here as the drivers themselves.
The days and the weeks leading up to this Daytona 500, we've seen the greatest confrontation between Ford and Chevrolet that we've seen in motorsports in a long while. Both have cars that were built with racing in mind, the sleek Thunderbirds and the Chevrolet Monte Carlo SS. Now, the Thunderbirds come into this race with somewhat of an upper hand because they won the qualifying races, but Chevrolet hasn't given up, not by any means. And certainly we can't leave out the efforts of the Buick and the Pontiac and the Oldsmobiles. We have more factory influence here than I've ever seen, and I think that's going to make for one of the most interesting Daytona 500s ever.
And with a car at 205 miles per hour on the pole and some other cars not nearly that quick, David, we can have some problems.
Well, like Ned said, this is going to be a very interesting race, and of course we've got 7 cars that qualified at over 200, and the slowest car was at 191, so that's a 14-mile-an-hour spread, which means that the front row, the fast guys, are going to be within traffic almost immediately. I'd say like 3 laps they're going to be starting to pass lapped cars. This is always a dangerous time. The lap guys are driving pretty fast themselves, and it's difficult for them to settle down. The other thing that's going to make today's race interesting is the weather. All through this week there's been a stiff breeze, the temperature's been down in the 40s, maybe the low 50s for some of their practice and qualifying, and bingo, here we are today, 75 to 80 degrees. This is going to make a lot of difference to the car setups. I spoke to Benny Parsons earlier, and he said it would make a tremendous difference to the cars. Cale Yarborough's chief, Waddell Wilson, he wasn't so sure. He thought they'd got it handled, but I think it's going to be something that we're going to have to watch in this race, and I'm sure we'll see some chassis changes made during some of these early pit stops.
Since 1959, the name on this race that has been most synonymous with victory lane has been Petty. And again this year, he is a serious contender. Chris Economaki is with him now.
Richard Petty is under extreme pressure right now. The car just got to the line. The engine was changed this morning. It has not even been started up. He's going to face the starting flag with a brand new engine. Richard, Daytona's always been good to you. What are your feelings about today?
Well, it wasn't too good right now. You know, we had a little problem this morning. Had an oil pan leak and had to change engines, and boys just now got the car on the line. But we've won races from this position before, and from that standpoint, we feel like we're going to be in pretty good shape for all the practice and stuff we've done so far.
What about going with an untried engine?
Well, this engine's been in the car before. It was in the car back at the first of the week, and we have run the engine, but, you know, it should be okay from that standpoint.
Okay, the King Richard, 7 times champion here, ready to go. Back to you, Ken.
All 40 cars are gridded down below us now, preparing for the 1985 Daytona 500. Stay with us for our live CBS flag-to-flag coverage. 40 drivers are now in their cars. For some fan somewhere, every one of them is a favorite. A leading contender will start in 31st position. He is the defending Grand National champion, still seeking to win the Daytona 500 for the first time. Mike Joy is with him.
Terry Labonte is back here, Ken, because he did not finish his 125-mile qualifying race on Thursday. You've got a long way to go to see the front of this pack, and that is really going to have to change your race strategy.
Well, it sure is. We've got a long way to go, and there's some awful fast cars at the front. So, we've got to get there as soon as we can. But on the other hand, we've got to be real cautious trying to.
You've got some cars that qualified slower than you, starting directly in front. You're going to have to pick your way through those fellas when the flag drops.
Well, that's going to be a little problem because everybody's going to be racing for position. So we just have to take what we can get.
It's a long way to go, but he's got a long time to get there. And he's got NASCAR's winningest crew chief in his corner, Dale Inman. Now back upstairs to Ken Squire.
The starting lineup for the 27th annual Daytona 500 on the pole at a record-shattering 205 miles an hour. Best finish in Daytona, second in 83, Bill Elliott. And alongside the 4-time Daytona winner, Cale Yarborough. In row 2, he was second here in 1979, 2-time Grand National champion Darrell Waltrip, and the 1976 Daytona winner, David Pearson. Row 3, it's Benny Parsons who won the 575, and Kyle Petty driving for the Wood Brothers. Row 4, the 1980 champion Buddy Baker, and the 7-time winner, Richard Petty. Going to row 5. There you'll find Ricky Rudd from Chesapeake, Virginia, and Harry Gant. His best finish here has been 6. In row 6, Richard Brooks driving a Petty car, a Ford, and Phil Parsons. Row 7, it's Greg Sachs from New York and Lake Speed from Mississippi. Row 8 is Ron Bouchard from Massachusetts and the 1972 winner, A.J. Foyt. Going to row 9. There you'll find Jeff Bodine, and alongside Dale Earnhardt, the 1980 Grand National Champion. In row 10, it's Neil Bonnett and Sterling Marlin. For row 11, Dave Marcus from Wisconsin and Rusty Wallace of Missouri. Row 12 is Doug Heveron from New York and Ken Schrader, the only rookie in the race, from Missouri. The 13th row, Jimmy Sput Means from Alabama and Villa Park, Illinois' Bobby Wowak. Row 14, the Virginian Lenny Pond, and from Wisconsin, Jim Sauter. Row 15, it's Mike Alexander of Tennessee and Georgia's Del McCowan. Row 16, Terry Labonte, defending Grand National Champion, and Joe Ruttman, third here back in 1982. Going to row 17, Tim Richmond of Ashland, Ohio, and two-time Daytona 500-mile champion, Bobby Allison. Row 18, Trevor Boyce from Canada, and Morgan Shepherd driving the only Dodge in the field. In row 19, it'll be Ken Reagan from Unadilla, Georgia, and Bobby Hillen Jr. from Texas. Finally, row 20, 21-year-old Clark Dwyer and Slick Johnson rounds out the field. The invocation for the Daytona 500 will be given by the Reverend Hal Marchman, pastor of the Central Baptist Church of Daytona Beach, Florida.
Pray. Almighty God and Father of all mankind, we thank you for the inspiration of this day that causes us to be up with people, because that's the way you have made us, to care about each other, to love each other, and to share our lives with each other. We thank you for the excitement of this day, and we thank you that we can all be still and know that you are God and that you care about every area of our lives. So we invoke your blessings upon the drivers and the pit crews and the car owners and on the speedway and all who make this day possible. And we thank you that you let your presence be known by the power of your Spirit in our human heart. And we know that you love us and care for us. Amen.
Your attention, please. Will everyone please move back from the fence?
Will be sung by the Upward People organization who have been performing prior to today's race. Again, all 40 drivers are in their cars. The last car to roll out was Richard Petty at just about 12:07 after that engine change. And at this time, the Grand Marshal, Jim McDonald, president of General Motors, will announce the national anthem.
You already heard this fine group perform. This is one cast of 6 representing 24 countries, traveling in 30 different countries. Wherever they are, they stay in private homes. We thank the people of Dayton for being the host families. In some small way, they certainly will help to bring peace to the world. It's my deep privilege to give you Up With People and our national anthem.
Months of car preparation, final hours of the post-race ceremonies, and we are down to begin the 1985 Daytona 500 with Fords in the front row. Bill Elliott and Cale Yarborough, again, Cale Yarborough, number 28, seeking to be the first man in history to ever win this event 3 straight years. The field getting organized now and getting set. All the drivers are in their cars. We take a moment at this time to remember a driver who is not here, a former winner of this event, 1969 champion Leroy Yarborough. He won but 14 events, but he won the big ones. He won at Daytona in the 500. He won the Charlotte 600, and he won the Southern 500 at Darlington. Leroy Yarborough passed away this past December, known as a Charger and a great race driver, and missed by all the competitors here. Approximately 30 seconds to the command to fire engines, and the battle will be enjoined in the Great American Race.
And this is a very anxious moment, really, for the drivers, Ken. They are psyched up to their highest point right now as they listen for that command. And, of course, they're ready for that just in a matter of seconds right now. So many thousands of people here that are waiting that command, and, you know, the adrenaline is flowing.
I think it's amazing how these NASCAR drivers can be so talkative right on the grid.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to direct your attention right down here to pit road to our Grand Marshal for this year's 27th running of the Daytona 500, Mr. Jim McDaniel.
Jim McDaniel. Start now. Gentlemen, start your engines.
Drivers, it's the engine builders, it's the crew chiefs, it's the mechanics, it's the kids that wash the parts and sweep the floors and dream of someday being in this seat where Richard Petty now sits. From the Goodyear Blimp Enterprise out of Pompano Beach, Florida, Captain Patrick Henry of Parsons, West Virginia, with CBS cameraman George Nader, will be giving us dramatic pictures high above this 2.5-mile facility. Waddell Wilson steps away from his creation, number 28. The car that for 6 straight years has been the fastest car here. Remember, 1 year it was the fastest car, but not on the pole, because on one lap it went 2:01, and the next lap went on its roof, and they had to requalify. Now you're in Richard Petty's car, the 7-time winner, and the master in the 125-mile qualifying races, looked as brilliant as ever.
Yes, he did, Ken. I think he'll be a definite factor in this race today, even though his qualifying speed wasn't up to those 2 cars we see on the front row. He'll be in there.
And now you see Benny Parsons, car number 55. Parsons' car, he the 1975 winner of this event, the 1973 Grand National Champion, cinched up and ready to give you a ride. Once in a while, have a chat with you. We'll chat with them under caution now and then, not while they're racing. Interesting that these drivers all request the same thing. They want to describe the start from inside their cars.
They're trying to take our jobs.
That's right, particularly Parsons. Bill Elliott, short on words, big on foot, determination and guts. And here they are rolling away. And now you're with Jeff Bodine. Here's one of the Chargers that's a go or blow situation in this race.
Yeah, well, Jeff Bodine, of course, did extremely well here the other day. He won the Sportsman race. He qualified at a good speed in the 125 mile. He got left at the back when he had to make an unscheduled pit stop. But on his own, he pulled up through the field well, so he could be a strong threat today.
No one is more determined than Jeff Bodine. Of course, you have 40 determined individuals down here, but they came on so strong at the end of the 1984 season.
No matter how many years you followed racing, no matter how many events you've seen roll off the line, whether it's a quarter-mile track, half-mile dirt of the Daytona Speedway, this is a moment.
It is the moment, no question about it, Ken. I can even remember back 20 years ago when I was strapped into one of these things rolling off this line, and the same feeling seems to be generating right now as they roll down the line, even though, David, the money was not nearly as great back then as it is now.
150,000 people sharing that sensation as the field moves into turns 1 and 2. Back for the start in a moment. The field concluding the first of 2 preliminary laps. That's the track, 31-degree banking. How steep is 31 degrees? Ned Jarrett gave us an idea.
Are you ready? We talk about the banking in the turns here at Daytona and how the drivers approach these turns. When you look at it here, it's 31 degrees. It looks almost as straight up and down as your living room wall. But when you go into it at 200 miles an hour, as most of these drivers do, it looks as flat as the floor. I took a car around the racetrack to demonstrate how the car does lean as it goes into the turn. But to dramatize how steep this banking is so the home viewer will get an opportunity to just see how the banking is, we'll roll that basketball up and you see it doesn't take long. But if you think that's speed coming down, watch me trying to go up. I tell you, it's a little tough trying to walk up these 31-degree banks. Maybe I'm out of shape. They say that you can put a car on here and the thing would tumble down. We aren't going to try that today.
CBS's answer to Sir Edmund Hillary there. Good job, Jarrett. Let's talk to Richard Petty in car number 43. Richard, Ken Squire, do you read us?
I read it loud and clear right now.
How about it? All set to win your 8th one?
Well, we're all set to get started anyway. We're hoping we have a good day. We're going to try it and see.
How does the new motor feel, Richard? Any idea at all?
I think we'll be okay on the motor. It's just a deal. We've got to run 500 miles and not have any trouble. If we can do that, we'll be right close to it.
This is a motor you've run before, right?
Yeah, we've run a couple laps on this one before, so I'm not concerned about this.
There, I see your son right up there in front of you.
Yeah, I see him up here. A bunch of others up there, too.
Richard Petty in car number 43.
Cool, calm, and collected, trying to collect his 8th. Watching the kid in front, watching for a few laps, blow by. Easy.
88 Baker down on the inside. Baker with an Oldsmobile this year, his own team, alongside. Now you're inside Benny Parsons, car number 55, seeking his 2nd win. Coming around 3 and 4. Benny Parsons, are you set to pull this one out of the fire today?
I don't know, Ken Squire. The Ford's going to be awful tough. We're going to try.
All right, you're coming out of Ford. Good luck to you today. Any problems this morning on that car?
No problem, Ken.
Good luck to you. Pace car is ready to come in. There you see the Fords in the front row. Elliott in number 9 is running the same motor with which he qualified at 205 miles an hour. Most people thought that was a hand grenade. Not the case. Ernie Elliott says they will run that qualifying motor. Here they come to the line. The 27th annual Daytona 500 is underway. Elliott on the brake.
Crowd as they go into turn 1, and he did break away similar to what he did on Thursday here in the qualifying race, Ken. It'd be interesting to see if those cars behind him can pick up the draft.
He won by 37 seconds, 2 miles in a 125-mile qualifying race. There have been other times when drivers have had the field covered like that. There's always been some miscue, some mechanical malfunction before the race was over, Ned.
And we see Cale Yarborough moving up very quickly, so he was able to pick up the draft. Of course, they were in separate races on Thursday here in qualifying, so we really have not seen them run together, but we're seeing that right now.
Coming around a complete lap number 1. Del McCoward, number 0, out of Savannah, Georgia, smoking in the first lap, back in the pack. A screen back into the 31-degree banking of turns 1 and 2, which Ned Jarrett was showing you just how steep that banking is. David, those 2 Fords are just hooked up.
I was just going to say, Bill Elliott and Cale Yarborough look like they're going to try and hook up into a 2-car draft and put a lot of daylight between themselves and the rest of the field. One of our camera cars there, Benny Parsons, now hanging on to a good solid 3rd spot. He's put a bit of daylight between himself and Darrell Waltrip.
He is one of the major sleepers in this race. 55, Parsons, the Johnny Hayes car. You're with him briefly there. Here he is, coming back for the tri-oval, that 1,600-foot area leading to the 18-degree banking here. You are in the 3rd place car. Benny Parsons trying to close on those 2 Fords, and Ned, I think he's pulling up a little.
He might be, and you see how he stays as directly behind those cars, picking up that draft as much as he possibly can. If he wavers out 2 or 3 feet, it gets in thicker air for him, and that'll slow him down. But I'll tell you, they're hooked up together up front.
Well, this is the way that Bill Elliott's not going to want to see the last lap, just a few yards in front of Cale Yarborough.
Here's Cale trying the inside. Yarborough. There's Del McCoward, number 0, smoking. He may be coming in. Yarborough goes into the lead. Cale Yarborough with the Waddell Wilson car. They had heating problems early in the week. Seemed to have them solved by the 125s. But Waddell Wilson, Harry Ranier, J.T. Lundy, the car owners, have their fingers crossed. Here they come in front of this immense crowd. Back to complete. Lap number 4. Now you can see those cars back in the third position, bunching up a little and giving first and second place.
David Pearson running third now. David Pearson running extremely strong this whole week.
And that's car number 89. He's coming down pit road. That's Jim Sauter from Necedah, Wisconsin. Fellow that's the father of 11 children, having trouble here early in the race. And Ken, we have note that Terry Labonte, who started back in 31st position, has already picked up 10 positions, so he is coming towards the front.
One would wonder if this is the year of the record. The record 1980, 177 miles per hour. That mark was down by Buddy Baker.
If they keep this to the speed up, they'll do it easy because they're running around about 200 miles an hour, the lead two cars.
Pearson's into third, Baker's in fourth, Ricky Rudd is in fifth. Riding in sixth is Kyle Petty. Then a bundle of about 14 cars. There you see that second group. Buddy Baker with his own team this year. Robert Harrington, the crew chief. That 88 car hangs right in there for a moment.
He has been somewhat of a surprise down here, not to himself, but to some other people, as we see Elliott just draft right on by Cale Yarborough to retake the lead. But Baker is running an Oldsmobile, and some have said that the frontal area of that car is not conducive to the high speeds, but he has proved them wrong, and he's been competitive all week.
Car number 0, Del McCoward in the pits. Number 75, Lake Speed, is taken over in 9th. To 10th comes Petty, 11th Foyt, 12th. Inside Richard Petty's car as he closes on Darrell Waltrip. Pulls alongside, and Richard Petty guns down Darrell Waltrip. Here comes Ron Bouchard right behind him.
Boy, they make that look easy, but they just simply got the draft working together. Waltrip might be slowing down a little bit now. He pulls back in line.
I think he got left out of the cold there. He got down on the low track, and of course Ron Bouchard helped to push Richard Petty through him with his own draft.
Back with the leaders. Elliott and Yarborough wanting to make this a two-car race. Will we have the fastest 500-mile race in history? To be decided. And here's Elliott and Yarborough certainly getting at the program.
Yes, they are, Ken, and it's interesting that they've switched those positions a couple of times already this early in the race. That will keep them from running away from the field. But with the Cale's car in particular has had some overheating problems, and we wonder if they're needing to switch in order to keep the cars cool. Let's go down to Chris Economack in the pit.
It's been said that in racing that luck is where preparation meets opportunity. I'm a national champion, Terry Labonte's pit. In addition to all the tools and parts, there are 36 wheels and tires mounted up here for the national champion to call upon during the course of this race. Back to you, Kev.
Battle continues, 9 and 28 for the lead. Further back, we now have two cars working on each other in the third position.
That's two really old-timers and incredibly fast guys, Buddy Baker and, of course, David Pearson there. Buddy Baker, the winner of the fastest ever 500-mile right here.
Here's Richard Petty pulling up to battle Benny Parsons. Third place car, Pearson, then Baker. And now you see Richard Petty working along with Parsons and right behind them Bouchard.
Watching that fence go by gives you just some idea of how fast these guys really are going.
6th, 7th, and 8th there.
Richard Petty on his high line there, closing in on Benny Parsons. Probably going to slingshot by any second now.
Or maybe he'll just draft a little bit to try to pick him up. Yeah. No, he's going to try it on the outside. He had a notion on the inside, then moves the other way.
That's Richard Petty.
Not going to quite make
move
it.
On Parsons. Petty changed motors this morning. They found a leak in the oil pan on one of those 3 Dan Gurney engines that were brought here. This is an engine they've tested. Bouchard gets dragged along and pulls up a spot as well.
Benny was able to slip in behind Bouchard there, because sometimes you get left out in the cold and you really had it.
Again, the leaders. Elliott in the number 9. This car with incredible horsepower. There was no wind tunnel testing done on car number 9. There was a lot of talk about how slick and fixed up it was. It never got in the wind tunnel at all during the winter.
It's amazing at the job that those fellows have done. Their garages down in Dawsonville, Georgia, so far away from the engineering points of America, but yet they've come out here and just run tremendously.
16 hour a day is what it takes. And Bill Elliott's crew, Ernie's brother Dan, with their fingers crossed as they come around to complete lap number 9 of the Daytona 500. A Ford blitzkrieg continues here in our live coverage of the Daytona 500 as Bill Elliott and Cale Yarborough have those Thunderbirds fly. David Pearson, meanwhile, maintains the third position overall of the field. Just moments ago, Richard Petty almost had the car go right into the corner, all the way to the wall in the east banking of the track. He was able to gather it up. He lost a couple of positions. On the move is Terry Labonte. Now you're inside Richard Petty's car, number 43, as he's trying to clamber back up through the standings. His son Kyle is running very well in 5th overall.
And a car that is really making a move now, Ken, is Terry Labonte, the Grand National Champion. He started back in 31st place. He's already moved up to 13th. So he really has that car number 44 on the move. Dale Earnhardt in the car number 3 is hooked on to him as he came by, but you can see him now moving up on Harry Gant in car number 33.
13 laps now complete. Mike Joy is with Waddell Wilson.
When the green flag dropped, Waddell, it was a question if anybody could run with Bill Elliott. You folks have answered that.
Well, it's still early, and Cale hasn't said anything, but he's been able to keep up, and he's been able to pass him, but Bill is still an awful strong race car.
What did you do to solve the overheating problem you had earlier in the week?
Well, we had to go back and drill some holes through the block and heads and the head gasket and trying to get the waters, you know, out of the block where the heat was at.
Let's go down pit road to Chris Economaki.
Dale and Terry Labonte's crew chief standing here putting the watch on his driver. Terry Labonte has passed 17 cars in this race, which is now only 14 laps old. You passed 17 cars already, Dale. Is he asking too much of that car?
I don't think so, Chris. The speed hasn't been that much, and we had to get by a lot of the cars, or we're afraid we'd get lapped. So he's running about the same pace as the leaders right now. We're fighting traffic, so we feel pretty good right now. But
okay, he's busy. And what has happened here is as Terry Labonte moves forward, Dow Waltrip is going backwards. Back to you, Ken.
The other man on the move is that number 3, Earnhardt. Now, Earnhardt has really discovered something the last couple of days. They feel, the Richard Childress team, they can put that number 3 up into this race and lead some before it's over. But here comes the story. At number 9 and 28. Now it's the 28 turn of Cale Yarborough to stay in front. Bill Elliott just in there behind in second place.
Well, I know it's a bit early to say so, but these guys are lapping at about 196 miles an hour, and I think they're sandbagging, quite frankly.
Richard Petty behind his son and Ricky Rudd. There you see the 7 car, the Wood brothers. Kyle Petty driving for the Wood brothers, who turned that number 21, the number itself, over to David Pearson. Here's Ricky Rudd. I think that's Ken Reagan's car there.
Yeah.
Unadilla, Georgia, with some motor trouble early in the going.
Ken, he had an accident in Thursday's qualifying race. Cars wrecked in front of him, and he was a victim of circumstances. They've worked long and hard to get that car prepared to get it back in the 500.
Cale Yarborough is going to be the first man in history to win 3 consecutive Daytona 500s. Richard Petty won it in 73 and 74, back to back. But in the next year, 1975, he finished back in 7th place.
Well, Richard Petty has done more driving here today than anybody else that I've seen out there, even though Terry Labonte has done a masterful job of moving up through the field. But Petty has been up to 5th, and he's been back from there to 9th and 10th. He is really driving his heart out.
About 3.5 seconds between this group, this front 2, and the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th cars all gathered up.
I think they I think these two guys are just driving as fast as they have to do to stay in front. I mean, they're not going to run away with it because it's going to be politically dynamite if they do, but they're not running as fast as they could. They're running 200-mile-an-hour laps in the qualifying race, and they're turning only 196 now.
Of course, there is a little difference in the racing conditions. As you mentioned at the top of the show, it's warmer today, which would cut the speeds a little bit, plus the fact that the 300-mile race yesterday, putting a little oil and grease on the track, that'll slow them down some, but I agree. I don't think they're really showing their hand yet, even if they're running away.
Average speed through the first 10 laps, 199.557 miles per hour. 199, and that first lap getting cranked up to speed, well over 200-mile-an-hour laps by those 2 leaders.
Perhaps they aren't sandbagging.
No, I don't believe they are, David. Not at that kind of a
Well, in that case, David Pearson and Buddy Baker are doing extremely well to only be a couple of seconds behind at this stage.
Now, running behind these front 2 cars, about 3 seconds back, David Pearson in the 21 and Buddy Baker in his Oldsmobile in 4th. Then it's a bit of a smoker going down there to turn number 1. Bottom of the racetrack, we've got one He's way up high in the groove, as you can see right here.
Car number 17 of Ken Reagan, who was in the pits just moments ago.
That's a valve cover situation. They won't let him stay out there like that.
No, that'd give you heart failure if you could see that when you were coming 200 mile an hour down the back straight and you saw that cloud of smoke on the corner.
Cars in third and fourth are running several seconds back from the leaders, and now there's a gap back to the fifth position. Bouchard, followed by Petty in sixth, Kyle, and Richard Petty in seventh, Benny Parsons in eighth, Dale Earnhardt in ninth. Going 10th is Phil Parsons, A.J. Foyt is 11th, Ricky Rudd is 12th, Bobby Allison 13th, Harry Gant 14th, Lake Speed 15th, Craig Sachs 16th, Labonte has taken Sachs and Speed out. He's pulled up through there. Let's go to Chris Economac.
Boy, that car is really...
Okay, I'm down here with Junior Johnson. Things are not going well for Darrell, Junior. What seems to be the problem?
Well, right now, I think his car's either loose or pushing one. We don't know which one because he hasn't told us. But I think, just buying a little time till we get a pit stop to adjust the chassis. There's nothing wrong with the car other than it's either pushing or it's real loose one of them.
You can fix that with a wrench, huh?
True. We get a pit stop, we can adjust the chassis, and it should be all right.
Okay, Junior Johnson, not ruffled at all about Darrell falls in the back.
Again, that's exactly what David Hobbs talked about at the top of the show. Because of the difference in the temperature today, it makes a difference in how those cars will handle.
Smoker down at turn number one.
Ken Reagan's laying a ridiculous stream of smoke. He must be able to see that in his rearview mirror.
Here's Petty coming up on the smoker. That's his son Kyle directly in front. That number 44 car has backed up to 16th position. Remember, we reported a few moments ago, Ned, how he had progressed up to about 12th. He has backed up a little.
A guy who's really come on strong, who we've sort of let slip by, is Bobby Allison, who started off even behind Labonte in 34th place. He's up to 13th.
Kyle Petty right here in front of Richard Petty. Kyle, do you take it easier racing against your father than you do with the other competitors out here?
It's a type of deal where, I feel a little bit more comfortable with him because I don't think he's going to cut me off as bad as maybe somebody else would. But, I don't think he gives that much more to me, and I don't give that much more to him than you would anybody else.
There's Kyle Petty nipping down underneath Ron Bouchard in the 47. Kyle Petty still with Ken Reagan coming in.
Of course, this is a bit of a make-or-break year for Kyle Petty, I feel. He won his first ever race right here on the Super Speedway in the ARCA race. But since then, his racing's been a little bit indifferent. He's driving with the Wood brothers this year in an absolutely first-class effort, away from the family influence. And I think this is going to be a very important year for Kyle Petty.
There's Richard Petty's car, number 43. And there you see Bouchard twitching a little as he comes off turn number 4. Bouchard in the 47 car.
Some great pictures out of Richard Petty's car here. They come into the tri-oval right under the box here.
7-time winner here at Daytona.
And Ken, the fans are not seeing illusions there. Those cars are moving around that much out on the racetrack.
Leaders another time. Is that the Dodge, number 67? Morgan Shepherd driving that car today. Buddy Arrington's car.
Dodging out of the way.
Cale Yarborough now stays first. Bill Elliott maintaining the second position. David Pearson third. Buddy Baker in fourth. We'll be back with more of the Daytona 500 after this commercial message and a word from your local station. We're back with you live. 26, now 27 laps as they cross the line complete. Elliott, Yarborough up in front. They continue to spin off the lead, swapping back and forth in these two Ford Thunderbirds. Back in that rest of the race, the third position is Pearson, fourth position's Baker. They stay together. But the real story is back in fifth. Actually, Richard Petty has pulled away a little in fifth, and you're looking at sixth place here. And from Richard Petty's car, you look back at the sixth position. Allison, Earnhardt, Bouchard have been dicing it out back there in sixth. Ned Jarrett?
They have been changing around quite a bit, and just moments ago, Petty was right in the thick of that battle, but he was able to break out of them and pull away, and that's very unusual.
Yeah, because he worked his way right up through that bunch of cars, got in the front and proceeded to pull away. So that makes you think that Richard Petty's car, as always in this Daytona 500, is incredibly strong.
Average speed through 20 laps, 50 miles, is reported by NASCAR at 195.228 miles per hour. So the leaders brought it down a little there. Buddy Baker in that Oldsmobile has come up to third. David Pearson to fourth. Richard Petty in fifth. Allison showing his sixth. Here they are, off four.
Well, another one of the favourites in this race, Darrell Waltrip, who's the winningest driver in Grand National Racing at the moment. He's never won his 500, is in within 13 seconds of being lapped by Bill Elliott, which would be absolutely disastrous. So he really needs a caution flag on the way to make some adjustments to the car.
Well, everyone thought that Elliott would be told to come down a little and not run as strong after the 125-mile qualifier. But very one-dimensional about this business of getting on with the program, and Cale's willing to run with him.
Cale is making him really run faster perhaps than he might want to at this stage of the game. He can't afford to really punish his automobile, Ken, and you wonder, running almost 200 miles an hour, how much punishment is he giving it? But the car is handling so well in the turn, so is Yarborough, that they perhaps are not punishing it that much. And sometimes, Dave, when you slow down, it punishes the car more than if you run.
Absolutely. If you run off at a very unnaturally slow pace, it's the worst thing you can do. You lose concentration. It doesn't help the car either. And I think that these two guys are racing well within theirs and their car's capabilities.
29 of the 200 laps complete, and the man who has broken away from the big draft is Richard Petty, maintaining his position in fifth.
And right now, he's gaining on the third and fourth place cars of Buddy Baker and David Pearson.
Here you are riding with Richard Petty into the back straightaway, down behind Lake Lloyd, moving right up against the wall and trying to overhaul fourth place man David Pearson, third place driver Buddy Baker. And those are the men he's after. On your screen, you see the David Pearson car. Winner here in a great battle with Richard Petty back in 1976.
In theory, they should be in the better position because they've got a perfect two-car draft set up, and Richard's all on his own, but he is definitely making ground on them. And Bobby Allison is going away with him, too. He's broken away from the group. Bobby Allison coming up from 34th position on the grid. He's making a fine run for the front here.
Dygard team has had its problems, but it seems to be getting straightened out. There are your leaders. Still Elliott in number 9. This amazing crew out of Georgia. 12 people in the entire operation. At the end of last year, the last 4 or 5 races, number 31 pulls on pit road. Slick Johnson, remember, he started dead last. His father's name is Junior Johnson. Not the same as the gentleman up here with cars 11 and 12.
Not the same. They're from South Carolina. Junior Johnson that we know of more prominently in the sport is from North Carolina.
Well, I make it now that Darrell Waltrip's only about 7.5 seconds away from being lapped. He must be getting pretty desperate.
Bobby Allison also is closing up on car number 43, Richard Petty. Allison in the 22 car, who's won the Daytona 500 twice. And I can't believe we're going to stay at this speed. They've de-escalated a little on 9 and 28, but they are just kicking those cars around at over 190 miles an hour. And here's Yarborough dropping inside. There's the Dodge, the single Dodge car. I keep hearing stories a couple of years the Dodge will have a super sleek race car out here.
I hear in 1986 that they do have a car coming that might be conducive to these kind of speeds. Another car coming down pit road right now is Mike Alexander in car number 84, having some early problems here as he rolls into the pits for a change of left side tires.
Well, Iacocca being head of the Chrysler group, I just can't believe they're going to stay out of racing because he was such a major force in Ford's racing 2 decades ago.
I would certainly hope that they bring in a team. They have 2. One for Buddy Arrington, who's carried their colors through thick and thin, year after year, when they just didn't have the pieces to really go racing. But Arrington hung it out because he liked to race that particular mark.
Well, I'm sure that factory group is going to be back in racing. With so much emphasis from Ford and now from General Motors trying to catch up, I'm sure that Chrysler are going to join in.
They're the Fords, and you just saw the GM products running out there for a moment. David Pearson settles in with his Chevrolet and Buddy Baker with his Oldsmobile as the battle continues here in the 27th annual Daytona 500. Records are just being splattered and shattered by these 2 men. Number 9, now there is Schrader in the Junie Donlevy Ford. Great midget, great USAC stock car driver, sprint car driver getting overhauled. The only rookie in the race, Schrader, getting lapped by Bill Elliott.
Here's Ricky Rudd and Kyle Petty into the pits for the first of the scheduled pit stops. They've done 33 laps. I should have thought they could have gone a bit longer than that.
Here's Mike Joy.
This will be a scheduled pit stop. You see a little bit of paint on the left side of Kyle's car where he made contact with somebody's white paint job. Right side tires and fuel, that's standard on a first green flag pit stop. Leonard Wood hops around the car and Kyle is away.
Leonard Wood nearly got run over. That was a 13.5-second pit stop. Quite a long stop, but not too bad.
Car number 28 coming out of pit road. Cale Yarborough, one of those leaders. Also in is Tim Richmond's number 27. Ken Schrader is pitting. As we're up to a pit stop time in the race.
Everybody changing right side rubber as well as putting fuel on board.
That mechanic had a little trouble getting the right front off of Cale Yarborough's car. That cost him an extra second or so.
Buddy Baker's overshot his pits. He's going to have to go around. He's not allowed to back up in pit lane, but he is.
Well, he's backing it up there, but that's going to cost him a lot of extra time as Cale Yarborough gets...
Let's go to Chris Economy.
It now develops that the Fords are not getting the mileage the Chevrolet and the other GM cars are getting. The first cars to stop for fuel have been the Fords, and this could be a factor as this race unfolds. Back to you.
Of course, a couple of the Chevrolets have been in it. We see David Pearson going out. Here's Jeff Bodine, who won yesterday's Sportsman 300, taking on fuel, and of course the right side tires on his car. As most of those, we'll see them change because nowadays they can change the tires as quickly as they can add 20 gallons of gasoline.
There you are with Jeff Bodine, who's been running just a little off the pace here in the Harry Hyde prepared car, coming back on the track another time. Here's Cale Yarborough in the backstretch. Pit stops, the order of the day, and there's Bill Elliott's number 9. As matters stand, NASCAR scoring reports Elliott first, Richard Petty in second. There's Rusty Wallace getting lapped. 1984 Rookie of the Year, driving for Cliff Stewart. And here's Elliott coming in. He got some fair range on that car. He's run 35 laps.
Ken, they have really worked on that. It has been said for a couple of years, and in fact it's been proven that the Fords didn't get the gas mileage that the General Motors car did, but Bill Elliott and his brothers went to work on that, and towards the end of 1984 they were getting at least as good a gas mileage as the General Motors car. Lets him run a few extra laps, possibility of catching a caution. Of course he didn't here today, so they changed the right side tires on his car. Benny Parsons coming down pit road, so is Phil Parsons, Joe Ruttman, and Harry Gant. So this is pit stop time. They would, many of them would hope to make, and it looked like the car died when they took it off the jack. He got it quickly fired and is heading back out into the water.
Long stop though, 16-second stop for Bill Elliott, which is quite a long stop.
That's still one of the most important teams in auto racing today. I mean, they're such an inspiration to everyone. A homegrown family team that comes out here and runs up in front. Here's Mike Joy.
Raymond Beadle, champion drag racer and car owner for Tim Richmond. You had a long pit stop with the hood up. What's the problem?
Well, we changed the motors just before we came here. We broke a piston late yesterday, and the float was stuck on the carburetor. We just didn't get time to run the car this morning, so hopefully we'll be okay now.
Did you repair it, or did you have to change the carburetor?
No, we just shook it loose, and it came through. The fuel pressure is okay.
Raymond Beadle.
The man who's getting the range, 43, Richard Petty. He's still out here. Now remember, once up on the east banking, Richard Petty went all the way to the wall in turns 3 and 4.
Well, he's giving some sort of a signal there now, Ken. Apparently he's about to come into the pits. He was just waving to one of the drivers that he passed there and said, okay, everything's all right.
Let's see if Petty will pit here. You can hear him decelerating. I think he's headed for pit road. Richard Petty, number 43.
He saw him gear down. He put it into third gear. Now he's coming back into second gear. That helps to slow the car down as he hits the flat coming off of that steep banking. Boy, you can come off of there and get yourself in trouble. Of course, he's done it many times.
Ready on your watches. Petty in for his pit stop.
No one's done it more. He's left the car in first gear.
Puts a little fluid in himself as they clean off the windshield there. Usually takes a bite on that rag. There it is, in his mouth.
Just about exactly the same as Bill Elliott's pit stop. There he is going out right behind Ron Bouchard.
Pulling by Bouchard. They're going to race a drag race down pit road. I wouldn't want to be the guy holding the stop and go flag out on the end of that one.
No, they're just racing side by side as you see Petty changing the gears. Now he's in third gear, about to shift back to fourth. He'll run it up to about 7,500 RPMs. Now back to fourth gear. Here is Darrell Waltrip in the pits, and you see,
here's Chris.
Johnson is working on the adjustment of Darrell Waltrip's car, jacking the weight around and trying to make this car handle better. He's got, in addition to tires and gasoline, this wrench right here is what Junior Johnson used to try and crank 3 or 4 more miles an hour into that car. Waltrip's back on the track. We'll see if it works. Back to you, Ken.
And what he was doing, Chris, was taking wedge out of it, so they call. He was taking weight off the left rear, so Junior wasn't sure if the car was pushing or the back end was loose, so he has taken some weight off the left rear, which should let him go through the turns a little freer.
Well, taking weight off the left rear will, if anything, make it a bit looser.
Yes.
Yeah, he's obviously assuming it's pushing.
Yes.
be tough if he's got it the wrong way around.
I'll tell you, it really puts him into the driving area then. You have to keep up in the back end. Terry Labonte coming into the pits in car number 44.
He has been the leader. Terry Labonte has briefly had the lead. Phil Parsons had it momentarily as all the cars are under green, and we may be on our way to a new record for 500 miles.
Well, Terry Labonte did 6 more laps than Bill Elliott then, which is going to be a major factor in this race, unless the Elliott boys were just turning out to find out how their fuel consumption was.
As matters now stand, car number 5 is being shown as the leader after these pit stops. We'll be back and update you on the leaderboard after these messages. After the first pit period, coming under green, sorting them out, Cale Yarborough and Bill Elliott are still locked together in these Ford Thunderbirds leading. Terry Labonte had moved to third a moment ago. Richard Petty screamed around him. It's Petty back up into third. Terry Labonte back to fourth. He is right in the midst of that hunt. And Ron Bouchard among the front 5. With David Hobbs and Ned Jarrett, I'm Ken Squire. And we're seeing the record stumble here at the Daytona International Speedway between the onslaught of these 2 drivers, Cale Yarborough in the 28 and the number 9 of Bill Elliott.
Well, they're average over 192 miles an hour, taking into consideration the pit stop.
Car number 10, Doug Hemrock, up in New York State, having some problems here.
Boy, 192 mile an hour average for 100 miles, including a 16-second pit stop. That's getting on with the program.
All that slowing down, all that getting back up to speed.
Oh, you lose a tremendous amount of time. Actually, a 16-second pit stop's really more like a 35-second pit stop.
Richard Petty, car number 43. And right behind him is Ron Bouchard pulling in for a pass. Here's Bouchard looking like he wants to make a move. Ron Bouchard in the 47. As you look at the battle,
Richard seems to be quicker through the turns 2 and 3 and 4 there.
Here's Mike Joy.
Before he retired from active competition, Dan Gurney was America's most famous race car driver. Now he builds Indy-type cars, and beginning this season, stock car engines for America's most famous stock car driver, Richard Petty. Quite a gamble, isn't it, changing engines on race morning just before the cars roll off?
Well, it really was the smallest gamble we could come up with. We had a small leak, and rather than try and repair it and not know whether it was going to leak again while we changed engines, we knew this engine was a good one. There were no leaks.
Well, from the smile on your face, you're obviously very pleased by how Richard's running right now.
I am. I feel like we've been thrown into the deep end, to say the least, and I'm really very, very tickled the way Richard's going. At the moment, he's running a little bit faster than the leader. So, but it's early in the race, but we're very happy.
Dan Gurney.
Dan Gurney knows a little bit about stock blocks. Remember Indy, 68? Took a Ford up there to second place behind Bobby Unser. Gurney building the engines for that number 43 car, the Mike Curb car, which stays very much in the hunt in third position. There you see now Bobby Allison pulling up into fourth, car number 22. Here are the leaders again.
Well, Dan Gurney said that he was running a little bit faster than the leaders, and he needs to, Kim, because after that round of pit stops, he's running a little over 16 seconds behind those 2 Fords of Cale Yarborough and Bill Elliott.
Their speeds have dropped a little bit. They're down to a mere cruise of 193 odd miles an hour, so maybe the heat's affecting them. And here's Ron Bouchard
Something to miss on Bouchard at number 47, the Jack
Beebe car. Looks like a flat tire, and left rear tire flat.
Number 47, Bouchard, comes on to pit road. This happening while they're working the 48th lap. I can't believe we haven't had more engines. Of course, the weather is perfect out here, Ned.
An absolute perfect day, no question about it. We see a crack in Richard Petty's windshield, and that could become a problem. There's a tremendous amount of pressure on the windshields at the speeds that they run here. We'll keep an eye on it and see if it does get worse as time goes by.
To give you an idea of the pressure on the windshields, the other day when A.J. Foyt spun in the IROC race, his windshield flew out and went right over the top of the grandstand.
They're the leaders. Cale Yarborough holding that lead, looking for his 82nd career win, third in a row, consecutive wins. He's won here 4 times, starting back in '68. And now there's Bouchard's car.
It was a little more than a flat tire on it. They have the hood up on it, trying to see if they can find out what the problem is. It looked like the car was just coasting into the pits. Maybe the ignition or something went out on it.
It looked like it was a bit down on the left rear, but obviously it's the engine.
Bobby, here's Mike Joy.
What's the problem with Ron's car?
Ignition problem. We think maybe the coil might have quit on it.
They're working down the area of the distributor, trying to get Bouchard's car refired. He's flipping the toggle, trying to get it to crank, and it won't. They continue to work on it here on pit road.
Drawing away from the field at record-shattering speed, Cale Yarborough and Bill Elliott. Huckleberry just holds on at second place. From the Goodyear blimp, you see the leaders fighting it out on the 31-degree banking. The world center of speed. More in a moment. 52 of the 200 laps have been completed in the 1985 Daytona 500. And at the 50 lap, 125-mile mark, these leaders are averaging 191.571 miles per hour. You may be witnessing the fastest 500-mile race in history. The record, 177-mile-an-hour average, established by Buddy Baker in 1980 here at Daytona. 191.571 through the first 125 miles. Now you're looking at the third-place battle. Bobby Allison is up to third, the two-time winner, and the seventh-time Kyle Petty is showing some smoke.
That's the Wood Brothers car, and of course Kyle has been running very well here all day, but this is definitely an unscheduled pit stop and smoke coming from it. He was running in the 5th position.
He was running very, very strongly right up with his father and with Bobby Allison, but it looks pretty terminal, that amount of smoke, unless it's just an oil line dropped off, but that'll be wishing too much, I think.
Second 40, see him a little problem. Number 90, Ken Schrader, now number 7. The Judy Donlevy car, now the Wood Brothers cars with a hood-up situation. Richard Petty maintaining 4th. Bobby Allison in 3rd. They are the leaders. Another time closing on Bobby Womack. And there's that cracked windshield on Richard Petty as he closes in on Bobby Allison another time. Here's Mike Joy with Ron Bouchard.
Ronnie, what happened?
We're not really sure, Mike. We were just coming down the front straightaway there, and it just lost all power. We're not sure if it's the battery or busted cable somewhere.
They're going to try to change the battery, and the problem with that is for weight distribution, the battery is located behind the driver and low in the chassis, protected by a steel case. They've got to take off the wheel and get in there to change it. Let's go.
So they work on the Bouchard car as we watch numbers 28 and 9 continue to hurtle away from the field. What a performance by these two teams.
Both of those cars, Ken, are just handling beautifully through the turns, and of course they have the horsepower to carry them down the straightaway as well. You know, it's just a perfect type of a race setup that every driver likes to have, David.
Absolutely. They changed the 2 offside tires, the 2 right side tires in their pit stop, but they're obviously having no problem with the handling at all, even though the temperature has changed quite a lot today. And I guess these two are just working out which one of them is going to win the race, but there is a long way to go yet.
With 55 laps complete, further back, the 5th position is now shown as Dale Earnhardt. Richard Childress' car. Moving into the 6th position is Neil Bonnett. Neil Bonnett into 6th. In 7th is Lake Speed. 8th is Terry Labonte. 9th is Benny Parsons. In 10th is Joe Ruttman. 11th is Harry Gant. And 12th is Phil Parsons.
And Ken, whatever the problem was on Kyle Petty's car, they've worked on it, and he's gone back out into the race. We'll keep an eye on him and see if they did indeed get the smoking problem that he had here.
Cale Yarborough and Bill Elliott putting a lap down there on Jeff Bodine, yesterday's 300-mile winner. As well as these two guys, there's another 20 cars on this lead lap. 22 cars on the lead lap.
Chris Economaki is in Bobby Allison's pit.
Bobby Allison's team manager. Gary, you're the last Buick now left in the race. You only got 37 laps out of your first tank of fuel. The Fords are getting a little bit less, but Labonte is getting a full 100 miles. What do you do under these conditions?
Well, we wanted to be on the safe side, plus we wanted to stay in the draft that we were in when we pitted. We can get better mileage than we did on that first stop. If it goes green all the way, I think we'll be okay.
Can you make just, if it stays green, can you go the distance of 3 more stops?
It looks like we can get over 100 miles, so if we stretch a little bit on each one, we'll be right there at the end. But that first stop is always the most critical, and we definitely wanted to stay on the safe side there.
Okay, Gary Nelson, number 22, team manager for Bobby Allison. Back to you.
Wasn't Darrell Waltrip there about to be lapped by Richard Petty and signaling frantically through the window to get Petty to try and give him a draft, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I can see him waving at him, but he might have been just waving him by, but I think he was waving to try and get help.
Because that's Bobby Allison up in front of Richard Petty.
Now we're looking out of the back of Petty's car, Darrell Waltrip.
So Richard soon put Darrell Waltrip away, and of course Darrell's trying to hang on now to pull himself back into contention.
Waltrip second here in 79. The leader's getting into heavy traffic. They asked Bill Elliott about the motor in that car, number 9. Number 98 is in Trevor Boyce's car, Dr. Benfield's car, on pit road, was put up, and another motor having a
And this is another of the cars that was damaged in one of the qualifying races here on Thursday. They've worked frantically to get that car back in shape. And you can see Buddy Baker back in the picture once again. He's about to go a lap down.
As Dave Marcus is lapped in the 71.
And Buddy Baker was running such a strong fourth in the first part of this race before the pit stop. And here he is just 25 minutes later being put a lap down.
Well, he overshot his pits, which cost him a lot of extra time.
Bill Elliott, the number 9, was saying he didn't want to know what was in the engines, that he didn't have to lie about it. You think they tricked those engines up, Dan?
I got a feeling that he might know a little something about what's under the hood.
There you see the number 4 car, which is running in 10th place. They're reporting Joe Ruttman. That was on the 50-lap rundown. Joe Ruttman in the TG Shepherd car. New sponsorship, new team that's really come together out of the Morgan McClure colors of a year ago that Tommy Ellis drove. Little smoker on car.
That is Joe Ruttman's car, smoking badly. He just did a good job there weaving through the traffic, trying to hook up with Benny Parsons there in the number 55. But looks like Joe Ruttman's about to come to a stop.
He wisely points that car up towards the banking. Apparently he saw the smoke coming from it, and he wanted to get it as close to the bank as he could in case the engine erupts and puts the oil out from under him. You're better off to be close to that wall if she does turn loose with you.
That's right.
Back with the leaders another time as Joe Ruttman tries to get his car around the track and back into the pit area. Cale Yarborough stays up in front. Looks like he just might do it. Win 3 in a row. Become the first man to do so.
And they're going to give Kyle Petty the black flag. He's leaking fluid.
Elliott goes for the lead another time. Bill Elliott back in front. Remember, he's only won 4 Grand National races. Well, what an impressive racer. What an impressive human being he is.
He certainly is. He is an all-American boy, no question about it. Very determined, very quiet, shy, but he can flat drive that race car.
A lot of smoke out of car number 7, Kyle Petty's car, going into turn number 1. They had a black flag out for him, and the indicating board is on for Kyle Petty, who'll have to bring it on in. And car number 4, Joe Ruttman, finished 3rd here in 82. That car is off its feed as well. Elliott 1st, Yarborough 2nd, Allison 3rd, Petty remains in 4th. The Harold Kinder, they're on the flag stand overlooking procedures here.
Now Buddy Baker's going to want to try and hang on to these 2 lead cars and keep right within touch, which he seemed to be capable of early on, because if they throw another caution flag, it would give him a slight chance to unlap himself coming to the line, which of course would give him his lap back.
Here's Cale Yarborough down on the inside as 88 Baker goes blowing by him.
That car is slowed down.
Cale Yarborough is slowing up. Yarborough is out of it, down into the first turn. He's out of the throttle. Here he is slowing down, coming to turn number 1. You saw Baker scoot by him.
Definitely something is amiss in that car. We reported that in all of the practice and the qualifying, he was having overheating problems. In the Clash last Sunday, he had overheating problems, but then he ran the full 125-mile race. Thought they had that problem cured, but there is something wrong, whether that's it or not. You can see him weaving the car back and forth again. I don't know what that means.
It's almost like he's looking to pick up fuel. 62 laps have been completed. Cale Yarborough. Now there's the lonely leader, Bill Elliott, in car number 9. And they are a lonesome team. They don't work with anyone else. Ford would like to have them share things among the 4 teams. The Elliots will have no part of that. Here's Cale Yarborough coming onto pit road. Been running up in front all day. Joe Ruttman is also on pit road right now with the number 4 car.
Yarborough does not go into the garage area. He stays out. They're changing the right side tire, so apparently he had a flat tire, and that's why he was weaving. He couldn't help it. The tire was low. Of course, they have interliners on these tires, which would let him get back to the pits.
This will put Petty into 2nd. Move Bobby Allison up to 3rd.
Yarborough having a little trouble getting restarted. Apparently the car choked. Let's go to Mike Joy in the pits.
Well, the car has stalled, Ned. They're pushing it down pit road. Cale tried to pull out. He popped the clutch, and the car stalled. They can't get it refired. Still pushing. Cale pops the clutch again, and it does not catch, and they've lost about half a lap.
They're 1 lap down now.
The J.T. Lundy, Harry Ranier car being pushed back to 6 manpower out of 600 horsepower.
Boy, what a frustrating situation this is, to have a car that was running as well as that car, and then all of a sudden you get a flat tire, then the car chokes, won't refire. Now they're having to push it back into the pit area to work on it once again.
Elliott first, Petty second, Allison third, Dale Earnhardt in fourth, Bonnett in fifth, Benny Parsons up to sixth, Lake Speed in seventh, Terry Labonte in eighth, Ricky Rudd in ninth, Phil Parsons in 10th, and there is second and third. Two of the giants, two of the masters of this game. Richard Petty, the 7-time winner here at Daytona, and he's looking right out his back window at car number 22, two-time winner of the event, Bobby Allison. Remember, he won it here in '82.
Ken, there's Yarborough back at the pits. I'm wondering if they misinterpreted his problems when he came in. Maybe it was not a flat tire. We couldn't see that, although they have the interliner tires. And they're doing some other work. Look like they're headed back to the garage area.
Drama of what can be the fastest 500 in history continues here at Daytona. More in a moment.
CBS Sports Special is sponsored by Old Milwaukee and Old Milwaukee Light. It doesn't get any better than this. Skoal Long Cut Smokeless Tobacco. Easy to use.
Laps complete of the 200. Major developments. Let's go to Mike Joy.
Cale Yarborough is in the garage, very unhappy to be standing here so early in this event. What happened?
Well, I don't know. I guess we lost a cylinder. I thought we were out of gas, but something went wrong with the engine. Gave me no indication whatsoever, and it just locked up on us on that pit stop.
Well, it looked like it was running when you came into the pit, then when you popped the clutch to take off, it seized?
Yeah, it was running, but it wasn't on 8 cylinders, probably 6 or 7 cylinders.
Who is your bet to win this race? You've had a chance to run and draft with Bill Elliott and some of the other cars.
Well, Bill Elliott doesn't have any competition now. Nobody will even run close to him.
Well, that's what they said about Cale last year, and he did run away. Let's go to Chris Economaki.
Down here with car 44, it's behind the pit wall. It's being worked on by a battery of mechanics. It's on jacks. The hood is up. Terry Labonte is sitting at the wheel, waiting for these repairs to be completed. What's wrong, Terry?
Chris, the clutch started slipping. I think we've got an oil leak or something that's getting oil in the clutch.
Okay, there you have it, right from the driver. He hopes to get back into this once these men fix his car. It's unbelievable the amount of work. They brought toolboxes over here. The major repair job. Back to you, Ken.
It's directly behind the pit wall. There's number 88, where they're working on number 44, Labonte's car. Baker coming back on the track.
It sounds to me, I was going to say, Cale's, I was talking to Waddell Wilson, his chief mechanic, this morning. They've drilled the blocks in the heads. They put different head gaskets on that Ford this week, right here in the garage at Daytona.
Jim Richmond is in the wall. Jim Richmond grinding off the side of car number 27. First caution comes at lap 71.
See a wheel come off the car.
Tim Richmond in the Raymond Beetle, number 27. Coming down to a halt. About 800 feet out of turn number 2, and the first caution of the day in this 200-lap, $1 million, 500-mile race is brought out for Tim Richmond's automobile.
And Ken, he's sitting there right now just hoping that all of those drivers will go on the outside of him. The pit stops, the second round, were just coming up. David Pearson was caught in the pits during this caution. He and Buddy Baker had made scheduled pit stops. Ricky Rudd was in a moment ago. All the rest of them will be coming in as soon as they slow down.
Caution is out for the first time in the 1985 Daytona 500 in our live CBS coverage. Bill Elliott trying to dominate. Richard Petty lying second. Bobby Allison in third. Elliott had pulled away to a pretty handsome lead. Here you see Tim Richmond evacuating. The fourth place driver is Neil Bonnett. Neil told me this morning they had gone back and rebuilt their qualifying motor and installed it in car number 12, and he said, I think I've got a chance of winning this thing. But everybody has been covered thus far by Bill Elliott. Fifth place car in the field is Earnhardt, and they too thought they had discovered some secrets this morning on the Richard Childress car. From the in-car camera of Benny Parsons, Ned, let's take a look at this. David, here's how it looked.
Well, we see Richmond up in front of him getting into the wall. Apparently he had a tire to go down, or he got too high up in what they call the loose stuff, and that would be the rubber, as Parsons goes by on the inside and Tim Richmond stays up on the wall. Of course, Parsons was hoping he would do that, and sure enough he did.
There's another angle as just grinds down. He keeps it up in the wall.
He did a good job in holding on the wall, which is obviously an essential thing. You can't just go wandering across the racetrack, but of course you not always have control over that.
Report from Mike Joy.
Here's Barry Dodson, Tim Richmond's crew chief. What did Tim say caused the crash?
He told us about 2 laps before he crashed, after we put some new tires on it, that something was vibrating and shaking as he went in the corner, and evidently the car broke a wheel. He said it was it was fine, and then it was in the wall, and there was nothing he could do about it. It felt like it broke the wheel, and, you know, it was a brand new wheel.
So apparently they're out for the day.
Race drivers are unique people, but none perhaps more unique than the driver of car number 27. Tim Richmond has a style all of his own.
It's just something that it doesn't affect me. It doesn't intimidate me.
Baby, look at me and tell me what you see.
I thrive on competition. I mean, it's like I'm addicted to competition.
I can catch the moon in my hand. Don't you know who I am?
The competition here on this boat, on the cigarette, is the wave. Me trying to fly one wave and miss the next one to get to the next one.
I'm gonna live forever. I'm gonna learn how to fly.
Tim Richmond knows only one way to go, all out. His lifestyle is, to say the least, different from the other Grand National drivers, even his home, a yacht at Fort Lauderdale.
Race cars and boats, they go fast, but in a boat, you've got the ocean that conducts business the way it wants to.
Fire on Richard Petty's car number 43 on pit road. A fire on Richard Petty's car number 43. It is caught on fire, leaving our feature for a moment. Problems for the King here today.
Kenny had just made a pit stop. They were having to push it down pit road. They couldn't get the car fired, and Petty now inside trying to get it cranked up. They're putting the hood back down on it, so apparently they got it out very quickly. Let's see if it will fire and is able to pull away.
We are under caution from the incident created by Tim Richmond. He's having a problem with the shifter. Trying again. Coming right back out to go for it.
He's trying to get it in any gear that he possibly can as the crew tries to push it down. Now they've stalled again.
Here's Chris.
Okay, what happened to Richard Petty's car is when it was time to leave the pits, it would not start. So the crew members were pushing it, and the still wouldn't start. So one of the crew members got a spray can of ether, and that helps the car start. And he sprayed under the hood with ether, and the ether caught fire. Now the engine is running, and it's being brought back because some damage apparently has been done under the hood. A tough break for King Richard here.
Now there's a replay.
And there's where they're spraying the ether in down. That they have a little tube that goes down into the carburetor so that it will help it fire quickly once again. But of course it caught on fire this time, and now they have that gear shift problem as they're pushing him back down pit road. You can see Petty still trying to get the car in some sort of a gear as they push him backwards.
Tim Richmond being brought in.
We saw him get out of that car a little bit earlier and climb up on the sand bank that separates the racetrack from Lake Lloyd here at the Daytona Speedway. But once the records got there, he decided to crawl back in and ride back to the garage area.
Richard Petty's car resting back on pit road, being administered to not many people around it now.
Anytime you have an accident like Tim Richmond, the best thing is to get away from the car as quickly and as far away as possible.
Well, let's pick up that feature about Tim Richmond as we left off for that late breaking development here in the Petty story. Tim Richmond knows only one way to go, all out. His lifestyle is, to say the least, different from the other Grand National drivers, even his home, a yacht at Fort Lauderdale.
Race cars and boats, they go fast, but in a boat, you've got the ocean that conducts business the way it wants to. It conducts the business of the boat and the driver in the boat. Compared to what the race car is, the driver is conducting the business with the racetrack and the race car.
Keep it going now. Good. All right.
Tim Richmond's daily training program is uniquely Tim Richmond.
I'm not here for the women. I'm here to get Tim Richmond's body totally in shape and mentally in shape, which is going to help me on the racetrack and off the racetrack. And actually, you know, it probably is better for me in there with 30 girls, because if I start slowing down and they're still doing it as hard as they are, and I kind of start giving up a little bit, you know, it keeps me going, because I don't want to look bad in front of them.
Diet. You've changed your diet.
I've changed it 180 degrees. Brown rice with raisins and bananas in the morning. I come back after my workout. I'll have some steamed potatoes, broccoli, onions, peppers, whatever. And in the evening, just spaghetti noodles, and that's it. You put the nutrition and the exercise together, and you're right there.
It is a different life than other stock car racers, and it bears the special stamp of Tim Richmond.
I do like some of the nicer things of life. I could just as well live in a tent someplace, but I'd rather, if I had the money, to live on some yacht someplace and have maybe a Learjet. I don't have that yet, but I'm working for it.
Tim Richmond coming out of the Daytona 500. Gave it his best shot. Richard Petty, meanwhile, is coming back on the track in number 43.
And he lost several laps during the caution period, at least 2 laps. But thank goodness that problem happened under caution. Of course, he wouldn't have been in the pits had there not been a caution. All the drivers made made pit stops during this caution period. They went under the hood of both Darrell Waltrip and Harry Gant's car, making adjustments on those cars, and we're about ready to go back racing.
Well, of course, if that had been a pit stop under the green, Richard Petty would have lost about 9 laps there.
Richard Petty, they're reporting, only has 4th gear. Locked up in 4th gear. The record that is kept here at Daytona for 50 laps, the old record was 1983. Richard Petty at 188.917 miles per hour. The new record at that juncture, 50 laps, 125 miles, is 191.571 miles per hour. The next record to perhaps tumble was a 173.511, which went to 1980, held by Buddy Baker, 100 laps. Here's Terry Labonte.
He's about to come back in after that clutch problem he had. He's lost several laps. Of course, no chance of winning this Daytona 500, but he wants to rack up as many of the points as he possibly can.
As they line up on a restart, David Pearson, the Grand Silver Fox, is out in front. Kenny Schrader's car a lap down, number 90. There's number 9, Bill Elliott, now in second. 12 cars are reported in the lead lap. Running in the 3rd place as they come around for a start would be the Bobby Allison car. Allison running in 3rd. Neil Bonnett should be up there in 4th. Benny Parsons for 5th. Earnhardt for 6th. 7th as they come down for a start, Lake Speed. 8th, Phil Parsons. 9th, A.J. Foyt. 10th, Terry Gant. Field coming to the line as they prepare for a restart here. Here with Benny Parsons on the restart as they come into the tri-oval. There's Joe Ruttman, a T.G. Shepherd car just on the inside. So after the first caution of the day, we are racing once again, coming around to complete lap 78.
And it'll be interesting to see after some of those adjustments by some of the Chevrolet drivers if they will be able to run with Bill Elliott now. Of course, he had himself a very sizable lead before that caution came out. I'm sure he didn't want to see it, but others did want to see it.
Number 21, Pearson, Spartanburg, South Carolina, Chevrolet. 3-time Grand National champion there, and Elliott right with him. What do you think, David?
Well, we'll see. The other day in the 125-mile heat, Elliott looked so good through 4. David Pearson looked a little bit unsure himself, but very fast. It'll be interesting to see if these two could hook up to a good draft and pull away from the field.
Ricky Rudd is right there. The Bud Moore, number 15, with red and white colors this year in 3rd spot. That Ford still hangs in there strong.
Well, Rudd had just made a pit stop during the green flag period before that caution came out. I think that he might be a lap down, even though he is running
He is shown as a lap down. He is now reported 1 lap down, number 15, Ricky Rudd. Here's Chris Economaki.
I'm with Hoss Ellington, David Pearson's car owner and crew chief. He's leading the race right now, Hoss. The Fords have it on the cars. If the Ford passes, will David be able to hang on number 9 for a back bumper and take a shot at winning?
I hope so, Chris. You know, Billy is awful strong. You know, he's been strong all week. But I believe when we get stretched out, we can run one. Right now, I think they say we might be a lap down. And, you know, because we got a four-tire change a while ago, and the caution car caught us in the pit.
Okay, now Elliott just passed David. Elliott just went into the lead. David's now second. Did you make any adjustments on the car that would make it better?
Oh, yeah, we made some adjustments, Chris, but I just hope it does good with that Chattanooga Chevrolet. I tell you, You know, Elliott's awful strong still, but we're going to maybe give him a run for the money.
Okay, and now down pit road to Mike Joy in the Elliott pit.
Ernie Elliott's waiting for his car to come by. Things look to be going just about to plan for you folks.
Yeah, everything's going pretty good right now. Car's running good. You know, we're trying to be careful, stay out of trouble.
Well, now, this isn't like Thursday's race when he ran off and hit from the crowd, but it looks like he's able to get the lead whenever he wants it.
Well, I wouldn't really say that, you know. I didn't, you know, I don't think everybody figured all along it might be a runaway, but I never really felt that way.
Do you have to try to keep him in check and keep him from running away from the field?
Well, not really. You know, it's a little bit different today than it was Thursday. You know, we got a little bit more wind to contend with. It makes the car handle a little bit worse. And, you know, everybody's starting to get their cars dialed in pretty good now. And, you know, it's just, I think it's just a matter of time today. You know, everybody gets adjusted up. It's not going to be as easy as it looks.
Bernie Elliott.
And as soon as he finished saying that, then his brothers pulled out a second and a half in one lap.
Ned, that Pearson car reported as being in the lead lap. When Elliott went by him, he put him a lap down.
Well, yes, he put him a lap down when he passed him. The second place car, Dale Earnhardt, is in the pits. He actually was running in second place. And to update the fans, the reason Pearson was a lap down, he was caught in the pits. We reported that when the caution came out. He was making a regular pit stop, so he went a lap down. Here's Dale Earnhardt, and the car number 3, who had moved into the second position. Now that'll move Neil Bonnett up into the second position. So Earnhardt having his problems here in the Richard Childress car.
Neil Bonnett, one of those guys that's always been a bit of a sleeper here. He and Terry Labonte were the two favored Chevrolet cars, and Neil Bonnett looks like, as this race unwinds, he's right there in a strong second spot.
Elliott for first, Parsons in second. We'll be back with more live flag-to-flag coverage of the 27th annual Daytona 500 after this word from your local stations. With 83 of 200 laps complete, the incredible pace of this Daytona 500 is catching up with some of the giants. Richard Petty looks like he's retiring. He's brought the car in, and Bobby Allison is on pit road and back to the garage area as well.
Just a lap ago, Allison slowed down, took his car into the garage area, and you see Richard Petty steering his right into the place that they didn't want to be for at least for the next couple of hours.
Allison right in front of him. Bobby Allison, Richard Petty, both retiring just past the 80-lap mark, with number 9, Bill Elliott, continuing to dominate, destroy the competition here today.
That car has been running so well ever since they unloaded it off of the truck about 10 days ago. Even though they had a little bit of a trouble in the Clash last week, there's A.J. Foyt in the car number 14. Foyt having one of his better runs in recent years, Ken.
He was right up there in qualifying.
He's doing very well. He's up to 4th spot. Has been running strongly all day.
Foyt battling with Benny Parsons. Lake Speed is right there, too, number 75. Foyt has just moved around Lake Speed. That
Benny
takes
Parsons.
Now here's Parsons coming in at number 55.
I think you're right, Ken. The pace that they've been setting here today is really taking its toll, more than anybody expected. As you see Parsons, we're riding right with him into the garage area, another place he didn't want to be at this point of the game.
3, Dale Earnhardt back on pit road. He was running strongly as well.
The gate closed on Benny Parsons to even get into the pit area, much less find himself in victory lane. Now there's number 3 back on pit road another time. Richard Childress told me this morning that they had found the rock in the mule shoe, and they thought that number 3 was really going to get the program done. Things are amiss, and their hood is up. Meanwhile, Elliott, who came here for the first time in 1976, didn't amount to much that year, then got together with Roger Penske, bought some parts in 1977, and that began the train of events that leads him to this year, sitting on the pole, winning the 125, and perhaps becoming the 3rd driver in history to win the pole, win the qualifying race in the 500. Only 2 others.
And only trouble will keep him out of victory lane today, because the car is just working so beautifully, handling well, running well on the straightaways. He's got it all going.
Well, he has got it all going for him, but he's obviously setting an incredibly fast pace. By the way, we've just seen 4 or 5 of the top runners go back behind the wall, and Bill Elliott's got a long way to go yet, but he sure is looking good so far.
Mike Joy is with Benny Parsons.
Benny in the garage early, turning about 78, 7,900 RPM all day. What happened?
Something happened to the engine, Mike. I really don't know. Felt something like maybe a piston problem. I really don't know.
You got a lot of gauges here that can monitor what the car is doing when it's running right, but nothing to tell you when it's wrong.
Well, no, all the gauges were okay, but the engine wouldn't. It was smoking, smelling, and felt like it was on about 4 cylinders. So Who knows?
Bill Elliott's well out ahead of the field. Who else would you pick to win this race today?
Well, I really don't know. You know, I think I was in a group of cars that was, you know, pretty good. Neil Bonnett looks pretty good. The 75 car, Lake Speed, looks like he's running pretty well.
Well, there's a trio of former winners here. Benny Parsons, Bobby Allison, and Richard Petty in the garage.
There's Earnhardt's number 3, still seeking his first win of this Daytona 500. 1980 Grand National Champion after being Rookie of the Year in 1979. Dale Earnhardt retiring those blue and yellow colors, and Bill Elliott by his lonesome, all out in front, dominating the Daytona 500.
And within a span of 10 laps, Ken, we saw 3 of the former Daytona 500 winners, Petty, Allison, and Parsons, go into the garage area, and then a former Grand National Champion, Dale Earnhardt, go into the garage area. I'll tell you, they're dwindling down in a hurry. Of course, there's still plenty of racing and competition out on the racetrack, but it's making it easier for Bill Elliott.
Well, there's no doubt that Neil Bonnett is hanging on extremely well to Bill Elliott at this stage, but of course you don't know if Bill Elliott's slowing down a little bit. And also Ricky Rudd in another Ford is hanging in there.
89 laps are now complete.
But he's
the second place car, Neil Bonnett. There you see the A.J. Foyt.
Another smoker down in turn 1, right behind the A.J. Foyt car.
A.J. Foyt in third. Dal McCoward, who's had a smoker all day out there.
He had problems right from the very beginning.
Here's Chris.
I'm in Dale Earnhardt's pit, and this is one of the pits that are packing up early. There's no pressure, no urgency, tidying up, coiling up hoses, putting tools back in the toolbox. It's one of those days that a pit crew and a driver want to forget. Back to you.
The battle now is in third spot. A.J. Foyt and young Lake Speed in car number 75, the former world karting champion. Lake Speed in the white and blue car has been hanging right on with A.J. And then in the 5th position is Phil Parsons, younger brother of Benny Parsons. 6th position, Greg Sachs is having a good day. 7th is Harry Gant. 8th is Ricky Rudd. 9th is Buddy Baker. Going 10th is David Pearson. And Foyt is now slowing down. The Oldsmobile, the Hutchison-Pagan car, is slowing down. Number 14, 1972 Daytona winner. A.J. Foyt is falling out. Here's Mike. Mike Joy.
Yeah. Richard Petty, this is no place for a 7-time winner to be. Notice you just took a headache powder. You had quite a headache today.
Well, yeah, something happened to the thing. I don't know whether it's a flywheel or the clutch or transmission. Something happened in that area of the thing. They're trying to check it out, see what they come up with.
Well, it's hard to run these things in and out of the pits when all you have is 4th gear.
Well, if I had 4th, I had 4th the last time, went out, and then I run 3 or 4 laps, and then the whole thing come disengaged. So now they're trying to get it engaged again.
Benny Parsons, Bobby Allison, A.J. Foyt, yourself, all suddenly in the garage area. All former winners of this event. You don't think it's a jinx?
Ain't our day, one for sure. We'll wait to see what happens from now.
Richard Petty.
Closing on the halfway mark, Del McCoward's number 0 that you saw smoking on the track is coming in. We're also seeing, I think, Phil Parsons, number 66, pulling onto pit road. He's been right up there in the top 10.
He has. He had moved up into the 5th position, and he's coming down pit road, not going to the garage area. So maybe it's something that can be fixed on his car. He was a rookie last year, but he's been doing a beautiful job in one of the Johnny Hayes cars. And here comes Foyt. Maybe we ought to go out here and get us a rental car and get in this thing. We might get finished.
I think it looks like he's got a...
We'll be back with more.
To ask yourself, have you driven a Ford lately?
90 laps, 225 miles down. They're averaging 178 miles an hour. From the Goodyear Blimp Enterprise, you see the immense Daytona International Speedway, where an immense record is being created by car number 9, Bill Elliott, now running 5 miles an hour faster than the record at the 100-lap halfway juncture of the race. That record in 1980 by Buddy Baker at 173 miles an hour. Even with a caution, they're still up around 178 miles per hour. All thanks to this man from Georgia, Bill Elliott, in car number 9. Mike Joy is standing by with one of the men who thought he had a chance at it today and is now in the garage area.
Well, there are a lot of them here, Ken. It's like Auto Racing's all-star team in the garage. Bobby Allison, what happened to you?
Well, the engine blew up out there. You know, it's one of them kind of disappointing days. I guess the only thing, Benj, you said they were all selling beer while we were waiting. I hope it was Miller.
In the garage area, not the way to start what you'd hope would be a championship season. Not too many points you get sitting here.
No, that's true. It's a sad, you know, a sad start on our run, but today is over for us. You know, we have to think toward next week.
A lot of those sad stories here in the garage. Down to Chris Economaki.
I'm standing with Jim Gilmore, A.J. Foyt's sponsor. Jim, I understand the reason out is remarkable. I've never heard of it. Exactly what was it for A.J.?
Chris, as near as we know, when we contacted him over the radio, the steering froze up. I've never heard of that happening before, and the car was running beautifully.
He was up in fourth place.
Yes, he was in fourth place and working up to third, and the car was running fine. As near as we know, the steering froze. I've never heard of that happening before.
Well, that's a story to tell your grandfather. They're running here close to 200 miles an hour when the steering freezes up. Back to you, Ken.
Well, Chris, a story here now is Neil Bonnett. He's running about 3 seconds back from the leader. Neil Bonnett told me this morning that they had changed and gone back to their qualifying engine. They rebuilt the engine with which they qualified, and that one ran around here at a pretty good clip, and they were going to go for it. He said, we're going to reload the gun one more time and put in a lot of powder.
Well, he qualified third fastest overall. He was just behind Bill Elliott and Cale Yarborough, qualifying at over 202 miles an hour, and so that did prove that he had a good, strong engine, and he's making it work here today.
But a qualifying motor is not necessarily the hot tip for a 500-mile race.
Well, normally it isn't, because they will set it up a little bit looser than the inside than they would an engine that they would plan to run all day long. But apparently the heads on that car were working well. That helps to produce horsepower, so they tried to put it all back together, tighten the engine up a little bit, and hope she'd live for 500 miles.
There you see the Neil Bonnett Chevrolet, number 12, running in that second position. And in a holding pattern right now, staying just about 3 seconds down as we come to the halfway mark in the 1985 Daytona 500-miler.
Well, Bonnett's car certainly looked very stable going through turns 1 and 2 there, only using up about half the road width, so he's probably in good shape from his handling.
And here's Pearson in car number 21 having problems. The former Daytona 500 winner, another of them. Smoke coming up from that Haas Ellington car. So Pearson, it looks like it's going to be all for him today.
All the gentlemen who have been champions here before, is this the year the dike breaks, the dam finally crumbles, and we have some new faces. It's been the Pearsons, the Yarboroughs, the Allisons, the Pettys to win this time after time. But this young man out in front, Bill Elliott, looks like he could score heavily today, and right behind him, Neil Bonnett, who's as good as you can get.
I believe every one of the former champions of the Daytona 500 are already out of it now, Ken. We'll check our records here just to be sure, but it's amazing.
Now consider this. Harry Gant in the Hal Needham Burt Reynolds car finds himself up in third. Lake Speed into fourth. Greg Sachs is in fifth. What a run by Greg Sachs today. Ricky Rudd is in sixth. Darrell Waltrip seventh. I wonder if being a new father has some effect on Darrell Waltrip. He won't be a new father, and this is interesting. I was talking to Stevie this morning. I said, when is the baby coming? She said, Rockingham in the fall. Oh. Shaky got a little going down into turn number 1.
They're right up on the wall in the triangle.
Well, the attrition here has been tremendous today. Not for this man, though. He just continues just to hold it all together. And you can see when he goes into the turns, he drives the car exactly where he wants to go. There's a look at the cars that are out of the race, Ken. It started with Ron Bouchard with an electrical problem. Kyle Petty had an engine problem. Cale Yarborough, an engine problem. Of course, this is all unofficial as far as these reasons out of the race. We saw Richmond went out with the crash, and Bobby Allison said he had an engine problem. Richard Petty might be coming back as they work on that car. And Earnhardt and Foyt, of course, is up now.
But can you believe one of these homegrown cars? This number 9 is about as far away from the Ford factory people as a car can be, and not just geographically between Michigan and Georgia. They keep very much to themselves. There's been a considerable amount of talk about the fact of sharing ideas among those various Ford teams, and it has been the Elliots who said, we worked very hard to figure this thing out, and we're just country boys, and we just as soon keep what we know.
They're not about to tell. And you know, so many of the Grand National teams locate in the Charlotte, North Carolina area within a 75 to 100 mile radius there. And that's good because of the proximity to the racetracks. But these fellows down in Georgia are in a good position because they don't get the knowledge passed out to some of the teams in Charlotte there.
Ted Schrader now on pit road in the Junie Donlevy number 90. Let's join one another of the great giants of racing with Mike Joy.
Well, suddenly, just about all the former winners here are on pit road. David, what happened?
Well, they must have burned a piston or something because it started slowing up quite a bit, and all at once the smoke come out of it, so I'm sure it burned a piston.
These things don't give much warning when they let go, do they?
No, they don't. But it ran real good. You know, I was happy with the way it was running, and I could go to the front, I feel like, except the Fords, you know. And but I was just hoping that they wouldn't finish, and maybe I would, but it's right opposite right now.
You've raced with most everybody out there today. Besides Bill Elliott, the odds-on favorite, who do you think has the best shot?
You know, I don't really know. Of course, most of the time I was running, behind Bill Elliott and Cale there. I was running third most of the time until we pitted. And but as far as the rest of them, I don't really know. They're all running, fairly decent.
For David Pearson, the warranty on this motor expired just about an hour too early. Back to Ken Squire.
He knows heartbreak before, back in 1970 when Pete Hamilton defeated him right at the finish of the race, and of course back in 67 when he hadn't won, and then Mario Andretti came on to win when he had motor trouble late in the race. More from Daytona in a moment. Strangeness settles over the Daytona Speedway. As we get to the halfway point of the Daytona 500, we have a new record. An incredible mark, 179.712 miles per hour for this man, Bill Elliott, in car number 9. The old record was 173.551. And when you start splitting up records by 6 miles an hour, Ned, you're really getting with the program, and Elliott's coming on pit road.
I would say this would be a scheduled pit stop for Bill Elliott. It's been about 95 miles since they made their last pit stop.
Bonnett takes the lead. Neil Bonnett now goes into first as he flashes across the line. There's Neil Bonnett, lap car, Ricky Rudd alongside. Bonnett now into the lead briefly, and it's pit road where the action is on car number 9, which is shattering all records in the history of this 27-year-old classic.
They changed the right side tires and filled it up with gasoline, and he's already away. A good pit stop for Elliott, about 15 and 8/10 seconds.
That's very good, and Neil Bonnett seemed to slow down to me on the back chute then when Ricky Rudd went by him and put himself back on the same lap as Neil Bonnett in second spot. So I would assume that Bonnett's probably going to come in this time. He seems to have slowed up quite a bit.
Well, who do we have left of the old 500 winners here, Ned?
There is only one in the field. Buddy Baker is still running. He's 1 lap down right now, showing in the top 10, but he is 1 lap off of the pace, but he's the only former champion of this race, and there were 7 of them at the beginning.
Neil Bonnett's car just doesn't sound right to me. When it went underneath the start-finish line here, it didn't sound too healthy.
Lake Speed is in 3rd. Greg Sachs, the New York driver, is in 4th. And Ricky Rudd in 5th, a lap down, and here is still another retiree from this tremendous battle.
That's Trevor Boyes, who's driving the Dr. Ron Benfield car. First time out in that car for him this year.
Drove for James Hilton a year ago.
It's very strange, that most of the retirements so far are some of the most heavily financed teams. And of course, these are the guys that really go for the win. And it makes you wonder whether the weather hasn't in fact really come home to roost on all these engines. They're all doing the same thing. They're all burning pistons. And there must be a reason.
Well, those folks in Georgia know something that nobody else knows then. Chris Economack, he has a different story here at the Daytona 500. Chris?
I'm standing with 33-year-old Dennis Myers, a professional trucker from Lipstick, Ohio. Earlier today, he was presented a $20,000 savings bond by the chairman of the board of the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company for being the National Highway Hero. Congratulations, Dennis. You rescued a man from a blazing truck on the highway. You saw the accident happen in front of you. How much thinking did you do before you ran into those flames to pull that man out?
There wasn't much thinking. I just did what I had to do, and I figured he'd do the same for me.
Well, that's wonderful. You see these drivers out there, you spend your life at a steering wheel. Would you like to drive one of these things?
I don't know if I can handle the pressure, but I'd like to try it.
Okay, our National Highway Hero for 1985, Dennis Lipstick, 33 years old, or Dennis Myers, 33 years old of Lipstick, Ohio. Back to you, Ken.
Neil Bonnett, 2nd place car, now on pit road.
Actually, he was the leader when he came in. Bill Elliott had made a pit stop, so Bonnett was the leader. And Lake Speed, a little further down pit road, is also in. Change the right side tires for Bonnett. Speed getting change the right side tires as well.
Elliott back into the lead.
And it looks like they're going with a 4-tire change on Neil Bonnett's car. Unlike Elliott, they only changed the right side on his, so he'll get even a little farther behind. We see Speed coming out in the Pontiac car number 75, so he'll move ahead of Bonnett. He was running about 5 or 6 seconds behind Bonnett. Now Bonnett finally gets all of his service and heads back in. That was Bobby Walwack's car, who's having a good run here today. Car number 74 that was sitting just behind Bonnett.
111 laps complete, 89 to go.
Well, that certainly was a long stop for a green stop to change all 4 tires.
Here's Harry Gantz, number 33. He had a smidgen of the lead for just a second. Greg Sachs hit number 51. He's also on pit road. Elliott continuing to command this race. It's taking place only one caution thus far, and yet this high attrition rate on motors today, Ned.
Well, that could certainly attribute to it the fact that they've been having to run so hard for so long and not having the slowdown periods of the caution. We see that Bonnett has gotten speed back up once again. And we mentioned that Greg Sachs is in the pits right now. He's running in the top 5. In fact, he had taken the lead before he came into the pits. This is the car that Cale Yarborough won the Daytona 500 in a year ago today. His team bought that car from the Harry Renier team when they switched to the Ford products, and he's given it a good ride for a fellow just in his second full year on the circuit.
So that car knows its way around this track, and that could still be a contender, but Greg Sachs looks just a little bit loose in some of these turns. I think he's trying pretty hard to keep up this fantastically blistering place that this car number 9 is setting up.
Well, Greg Sachs in the 51 car, we'll get a look at it here. He's a veteran of this track. He had a crash in Calamity Corner and some tire testing a few years ago, broke a collarbone. He said he'd be back, and indeed he is back today, running the top 5. I think we're seeing the changing of the guard here in 1985 at the Daytona Speedway.
I don't think there's any question about it, with only one former 500 winner still in the field, and he's running a lap off of the pace. That's Buddy Baker running along in the 6th to 7th position, but this man is just making shambles of it.
The Ford Thunderbird of Bill Elliott continues to scream in first place, breaking all records for the Great American Race. Back with more in a moment. 116 laps now complete. 84 remain to be run in the 1985 Daytona 500 as Bill Elliott in car number 9 just runs everybody into the ground. Car after car that has been a formidable opponent in years past has already gone back to the garage area, and here you see the red number 9 trapped for a moment in lap tires, but not for long. The second place car is number 33. His best finish previously has been 6 in this event. Harry Gant, who came on so strong at the end of 1984. Now the third place car is number 75, the Raymock Racing Team crew. Lake Speed at number 75 maintains third. Neil Bonnett 4th, Greg Sachs 5th. A lap down, Ricky Rudd is in the 6th position. Darrell Waltrip is in 7th, and Richard Brooks, driving the Maurice Petty car, is running in 8th, the car number 1. There's 3 Petty teams out here this year, some different from the past. 3 distinct teams.
Yes, and of course, not a Petty in a Petty Enterprises car this year for, well, I guess it's the first time it's ever happened. Other drivers have driven Petty cars, but the fact that they're only fielding one car this year and have a driver that is not a Petty, and it is unique.
Sure is different. Buddy Baker, Tiny Lund, remember that Pete Hamilton, of course, winning for them. But this year it's Richard Brooks driving for Petty Engineering. And Mike Curb has Richard Petty. Right. Kyle Petty's with the Wood Brothers.
Jim Pascal in that driver of the Petty cars. He won many races in Petty Enterprises automobiles.
And Dale Inman, of course, is yet another Petty really, and he's the crew chief on Terry Labonte's car, winning the national championship last year. So the Petty clan has spread throughout the NASCAR scene. And Dale Inman seems to be the one that's having the most success so far.
Now there's Greg Sachs in the number 51 car. And Chris is standing by with one of his relatives who's a little concerned here today. Chris?
Before the race started today, this lovely-looking young woman came up and tapped me on the arm and said, "You be sure to give my son good coverage." And I said, "Who's your son?" She said, "Greg Sachs." Pat Sachs, what did you think a minute ago when you saw number 51 leading the race?
I can't imagine. They work so hard. It's really wonderful.
Okay, a happy mother here. Greg Sachs, been 5th place now on the lead lap. And now down pit road to Mike Joy.
Tim Brewer is talking with his driver, Neil Bonnett, right now. You were the 2nd place car when you came in and made your pit stop. Did you have to take on 4 tires?
No, Mike, we didn't have to take on 4, but he felt like he had a vibration in the car. We figured it might have kicked the wheel weight off. So instead of gambling with 2, we got 4, but the vibration is still there.
That's a better deal, even though you let Bill Elliott get away.
Well, we didn't have much choice. We could, get 2 and come back in and get 2. If we had got the wrong one, that's too much of a gamble. We just decided to go ahead and get a straight 4 tires.
So taking on 1 stop instead of maybe having to make 2, the strategy for Neil Bonnett.
David Hobbs had mentioned that Bonnett's car didn't look like it was running as fast as it had been before, and of course that was the reason if he had a vibration, and that was a wise choice to change all 4 tires.
He just suddenly let Ricky Rudd go through, and there's no point in running with a serious vibration a couple of 100 miles an hour because he can shake things apart very quickly.
And he might be up in the wall like Tim Richmond was when he had a vibration.
Yeah, exactly. It's always best to stop and check.
120 laps completed, the 200 if you run. There you see Jimmy Means in car number 52, running a couple of laps off the pace, staying out here and continuing to be a competitor in Grand National racing over the years. And earlier, Ned Jarrett asked Jimmy Means what it cost him to come down here and run this Daytona 500.
Well, you know, if you include all your winter money and expense money and all that, I'd say $15,000 for us. We're a big team. It probably takes $50,000.
So that means then that you do have to finish pretty close to the top 10.
Well, yeah, our goal is the top 10, and that's something like $20,000 for 10th, and that gets us rolling, gets our bills paid, lets us charge something again.
Jimmy Means in car number 52, continuing to slug it out here in this Daytona 500. 62 cars signed in, 40 qualified to start today's race. Here's Means, still working, still staying in the hunt, late in the going, not being shown. He's now being shown in the 21st position. Here's the leader, Bill Elliott, in car number 9. This is not exactly a megabuck team, but it's a well-organized, strong family unit, and family units over the years have always seemed to work well in racing. But behind the big stories of those major super names you hear in stock car racing, there's another 80% of the field that don't live quite the same way. Among the Grand National drivers, 3 champions whose names are known to every fan, come up at every single race and are known. But there are others whose goals are the very same, but whose luck is not. Racing is big names, big business. Buddy Baker's made over $2.5 million. Bobby Allison and his 81 wins, some $5 million. And Richard Petty, he's won over $5.5 million in posted awards. But there are others.
Driving a race car is my way of making a living.
J.D. McDuffie.
My way of putting the bread on the table at home.
He started 574 races, has made $1 million.
I'm getting back about half as much as I'm giving.
He's never won a race and hasn't hardly a nickel to his name.
And I couldn't make it without a good woman at home.
Yeah, I have to cut a lot of corners, buy used parts, and run used tires, knowing how to build the engines and everything myself. That's a big saver right there, because I could never buy a $15,000 or $20,000 engine. I'd be out of business in about 2 races, you know.
It looks to me like a $150,000 shop. You told me you built it for 50.
Oh yeah, a lot of my friends come by it, carpenters and everything, farmers, and we finished it up, you know, really saved me a bunch of money.
Sponsorship, tough world. And the kind of people who've been with you before, Weiler Nuts and Bolts and Rumpel Furniture and so forth.
They really helped me out a bunch to keep going. If it weren't for them little sponsors along, I would have been out before, you know. But not enough to be up front running, but it gets me to the track.
It's got to be more than a dream, cause the dreams just won't make it. Dreaming won't ever put bread on the table at home. And racing runs deep in my veins, and I'll never shake it. And I'm tied to it just like I'm tied to the woman at home.
I worry about him. I don't worry about the car. I mean, the car comes second. He's not a quitter. JD's not. I would have quit a long time ago, probably. I would.
The last 3 years, I've been running on borrowed money, you know, and you just can't do that. And I'm slipping a little farther back, but maybe I'll have some help this year where I can show up, you know. But it is really tough.
You can see somebody come in one time, nobody knows him, where he came from or what he's been driving. And before the race is over or before it started, he's got all this fantastic money. Just because maybe he knows one person or I don't really know how it works, but yeah. I've always felt JD was left out. He never got a fair shake because he's got the experience and he can drive.
To run with the best in the world, you know, I could probably go out here and run somewhere else and run right up front, you know, but you ain't got the caliber of competition there, you know. If I can make the top 10 in this, I've really done something.
I've told him to quit this year. I begged him to quit. Really? I mean, how can you keep going with 0, you know? But then you look at him. He can't stand that. He's got to keep going. I understand his side of it.
I love to do it. It's the only thing I've ever done, really, besides being a mechanic, you know, and it's all I know.
You might as well call me a 20th century drifter. 32 weekends I load up the car and I'm gone. My woman cries with each goodbye kiss that I give her, as she prays that come Monday morning I'll be drifting home.
JD has a new sponsor, a new car, a new chance, perhaps a final chance. But here at Daytona, the old hard scrabble luck plucked his pocket one more time. The engine blew, he failed to qualify. So for JD McDuffie, it's leave the crowds, the glory, the big money, hitch up and haul up old I-95 to try again next Sunday at Richmond, Virginia.
Now, the music behind that piece was written by Marty Robbins and sung by this fella, T.G. Shepard, who's here as part of Joe Ruttman's racing team. You've been a race fan for a year or two now, but this is a different role for you.
Well, it's exciting. I found out that the country fan is also a race fan, and we had a chance to put the two together with Folgers, and it was a great thing for us.
But having to be down here and worry about how one particular car is doing, that's a little different for you.
Yeah, plus it's pretty tough on the hearing, too, when you got to go out and do a concert tomorrow night.
I'll bet it is. T.G. Shepard here in Joe Ruttman's pit.
Car number 9, Bill Elliott, just moments ago, the man that was in second place. Number 33, the Bandit, Harry Gant, is another victim of this incredible pace. Johnny Hayes, his car owner, one time told me, we don't set goals because we don't like to get depressed. Good advice for a lot of people out here today. Records are being created today in the 27th running of the Daytona 500 by car number 9 and its driver, Bill Elliott. Lake Speed is coming to second place, the finest performance he has ever had in a major race.
And Bill Elliott has put Pat Sachs's son Greg down a lap, so he's now lapped the entire field. He's lapped up to third spot in this fantastic race. It's still setting new records every minute.
Neil Bonnett is in third. Greg Sachs, just being lapped, is in fourth. Ricky Rudd is in fifth. There you see the Neil Bonnett car maintaining second position. The question is, how long can that car number 9 maintain this incredible record-breaking pace?
And he is running at an exceptionally fast speed, but the car is working so well for him. I don't think he's punishing it that much. Let's put Lake Speed in the second position and Neil Bonnett in third position. Those three cars are only ones in the lead lap. And right now, David, he has, what, about a 26-second lead over Lake Speed?
Over Lake Speed. And again, with Harry Gant's retirement, it's another one of the really high buck teams that's bitten the dust. And it seems incredible, these very highly sponsored teams are the ones that are passing the wayside.
Mike Joy is with Harry Gant.
These engines are exploding like popcorn. Any chance of what the reason is?
Well, it seems like everybody's burning pistons. In our practice sessions, the laps that you are able to run a car wide open when you're trying new tires, when you would, it would burn a piston. And all day today, I hadn't been able to really run wide open until the last, I got in the open and I got a good set of tires there. And so when I ran wide open for, you know, those 8 or 10, 12 laps, it burnt the piston again.
You looked then like you were just riding.
Yeah, everything was working good. A lot of cars have a lot of trouble, and I just wanted to stay in for the finish. It didn't really matter where I was running at this point. I was surprised, you know, with that high on the board. And I think, well, all I got to do is catch on with Darrell and 75 car and sort of take it easy. And just as they caught me, I moved over. I want to be the rear car. It seemed like it works a little better at the back until they come down to the end. And they were lapped out anyway, so except for the 75. So it just burnt the piston.
Harry Gant.
Again, I think David Hobbs hit the nail on the head at the top of the show when he said the difference in the temperature today, the way that they set those cars up, 45 to 55 degree temperatures earlier. These cars are so sensitive to difference in barometer, air temperature, pressures of various sorts in the air, and when you come out here and run at these speeds, David, today that they're running, that's what's doing the burning the pistons.
Well, I'm sure it is, and of course, the higher the buck the team, the more trick the chief mechanic always has to be to get an advantage over his rivals. And I think these are the guys that are probably more likely to trick themselves out of a place than the low buck guys who just don't worry about it. They can't do anything about it.
There you see the leader. There you see second place. That is the number 12 car,
Well, that's
rather
the car
the third
number 1
place,
of Dick Brooks.
and the number 1 car with it, the Neil Bonnett car, running in third with the Richard Brooks car. And the Lake Speed car, number 75, is maintaining second. And we're inside Jeff Bodine's car for a moment. Bodine is maintaining at this time. Jeff Bodine is being shown in the 13th position, a couple of laps off the leaders.
And he's running right behind Rusty Wallace there. That would be for position if he's able to move around him. Wallace, the 1984 Rookie of the Year on the Grand National Circuit.
I don't know what's up with Jeff Bodine. He ran so strongly yesterday. He ran very well in the 125-mile race on Thursday. But they've obviously just got some problem that's keeping them off the pace today.
Right from the very beginning.
Yeah, just never was in it. It's very disappointing for him.
There he is, still tucked right in behind Rusty Wallace, and that is a battle for 12th position. They're actually fighting for a spot out there here in this $1 million payoff. It still is. Records to be made for Bill Elliott, with Lake Speed, the big surprise, in second, Neil Bonnett in third. 140 laps to be completed this time by Bill Elliott, just 60 to go. Records every lap he turns out here. The marks are at 50, 100, and 150 as they're kept at the Daytona Speedway. We've already seen the 50 and 100 broken, and by remarkable numbers, and the 150 lap mark. 1980 was a 174.014. That one stands very much in doubt right now. Looks like he's going to crack through that unless there's a caution immediately.
Well, Bill Elliott has slowed down. He's very kindly lifted off the pace, and he's only going about 192. But he seems to be pulling away from Lake Speed in second spot, who's dicing furiously with Darrell Waltrip, who is at least 1 lap down. And he's pulling away from Lake Speed, even at his new reduced speed, at about a second a lap. Just about a second a lap, and he's on his own, no draft to help him. Lake Speed is trying to get more speed out of Darrell Waltrip to help him along. And there we see Lake Speed and Darrell Waltrip just in front of him.
Lake Speed first came here in 1980. In fact, he didn't even qualify the first year he came. He ended up in the consolation and won the race. 1981, then came on and ran the Daytona 500 since, and always finished well back. His car owner is standing by with Mike Joy right now.
Butch Mock, some of these cars came down here and get $50,000 a race from their sponsor to run. Until last night, you didn't even have a sponsor, and you're in second place, while a lot of those high-money teams are in the garage. Isn't that kind of ironic?
Yeah, it is, but, you know, we've raced for 5 years now, and I think we got us a good driver, and Lake Speed is doing us one heck of a job today, and we signed a deal last night with Nationwide Auto Parts, and I can't think of a better way to welcome them to Grand National Racing than keeping the car in front all day.
He's got a sponsor here who's never been to a Grand National stock car race, and they're in second place. Let's go to Chris.
There's a three-way battle in progress for 4th place. 3 cars are fighting one another. The scoreboard shows Greg Sachs in car number 51 is 4th. Ricky Rudd in car 15 is 5th. And Darrell Waltrip in car number 11 is 6th. I'm with Linda Rudd, Ricky's wife. How's he doing in that battle with Greg Sachs?
Greg's about...
It looks like he's going to come into the pits here. And the best laid plans of Meisel. Let's just turn the camera around here and watch this Ricky Rudd pit stop that is coming up in a rather unsuspected fashion here. And he's sliding his wheels to the stop. And of course, this is going to play an important part in that battle to move up on Greg Sachs. Right side tires, gasoline, of course. And it looks as though car owner Bud Moore is quite calm, despite the fact that the pit stop was unexpected. Bud throws his drink out, and away he goes. And that's what it's all about in stock car racing, being ready for anything that crops up. Back to you, Ken.
Running in 5th when he pitted, car number 15, Ricky Rudd, victim of a horrible crash here a year ago, and then came back in the very next race in Richmond, Virginia, and won it.
There's the Joe Ruttman car, T.G. Shepard car back on the pit lane there for looks like a scheduled stop. They seem to be ready for him.
Yeah, I think these are scheduled stops. While Ricky Rudd was in, Dick Brooks brought the Petty Enterprises car in for a pit stop. We'll see Elliott coming in before too long.
Oh, car number 4's had a tire roll out across the track. Ruttman, who's been running in the 15th position overall on the field.
It's all right. It's only going to run across the main straightaway. Nothing to worry about. Bill Elliott still running along strongly there in the front with about a 30-second lead. He's got over a half a lap now, well over half a lap on second spot Lake Speed. It's good to see a driver like Lake Speed get sponsored at last. He's been knocking on NASCAR's door for about 4 or 5 years now. He's an ex-karting champion, obviously a very accomplished driver, and this looks like being a really good run for him.
Leader still Elliott, Bill Elliott, Dawsonville, Georgia. who looks like he's going to break the stranglehold that has been held on this racetrack by the great racing stars of NASCAR for the last 2 or 3 generations. And there is the second or third place car. That is Neil Bonnett. Neil Bonnett running in 3rd place, and he may be getting ready to come in here.
We expected him to come in before too long, Ken. He isn't going to stay out there and take a chance of running out of gas. One thing that can happen and does many times. Okay, let's first go to Mike Joy. He's in the Elliott pits.
Bill Elliott comes to a stop. One of the headlight doors have come off that car. Gets a little extra air inside, spoils the aerodynamics. Right side tires, 2 cans of gasoline, 11 gallons each, and they tape up that headlight hole. The NASCAR inspectors make them cover that up. They don't want anybody getting any added advantage. Perhaps there's a little bit of cooling mechanism back there. They'd want to get some air too. He's still up in the air. Tire change just about complete now. Butch Stevens ready to drop the jack, but it's still up there as Ernie Elliott tapes over that headlight. They won't let him leave until it's done. Nope, one more piece of tape, the inspector says. He's got it affixed. Oh, come on, this is agony here. Ernie's arguing with the inspector over the amount of covering they're going to need. Well, they found one way to slow Elliott down, and that's by holding him in the pits while they stick a little more tape on the right front corner.
What do you think of that one, Ned?
Well, that was a very long pit stop while they made that extra repair on the front, and you know, the way it's running away.
Do you think that fender was getting that loose around that headlight?
Well, of course, it could create some hazard for other drivers if that sheet metal starts coming apart, and then it could come off on the track, and these tires are very easy to cut. Here's Lake Speed, who has now taken over the lead in car number 75, but it was a safety precaution as far as the NASCAR officials were concerned, but a very devastating one as far as Bill Elliott was concerned. And again, I was about to mention, when he was coming into the pits, you don't want to run out of gas with these automobiles because that will burn a piston in many cases. So you don't want to run it down too low, and especially the way he was running there today.
You don't think they were trying to tighten up the field?
Well, I would say you never know, but
wasn't exactly too subtle, really, that. They took far too long. That took 41 seconds. I mean, pretty well no excuse for that.
Let's get to Mike Joy for more on that pit stop.
Well, Ernie Elliott is back behind the pit wall pacing. He doesn't want to talk to us, and he used up about half a roll of tape getting that right front corner secured. True, as you saw when the car came in, the headlight door had come loose, but the NASCAR inspectors made sure they put an awful lot of time to get that really solidly taped up before they let Bill Elliott back on the racetrack.
Car number 75 is now on pit road. Lake Speed.
He was the leader, of course, before he came in, so that'll put Neil Bonnett back in the lead in car number 12. And Ken, during all of this, Darrell Waltrip has now gotten back in the lead lap. Remember, we saw him running right in front of Lake Speed. Speed was just drafting Waltrip around there, and so now that puts Waltrip back in the lead lap. Of course, he'll have a pit stop coming up before long.
So that Elliott stop changed the complexion, adds another car to the machines now running in the lead lap.
Now this will be a lengthy pit stop for Lake Speed also because he's taking on 4 tires. Neil Bonnett changed 4 tires the last time around. Here he is now as he comes off of turn 4. He's in the lead, and he'll be coming in before too long, but he should only have to take on outside tires when he comes in.
147 laps are complete, 53 remaining.
And as Lake Speed goes back out, Neil Bonnett put a lap on him. Boy, if he could catch a caution, that would really put him in good shape, but we haven't had many cautions today.
Lake Speed. That's his real name. Everybody says, that is his real name? Sure is. That's his Christian name.
Well, that fits a race driver, doesn't it?
Number 12, Neil Bonnett. Very much in this race. Whole question stays on the number 9 with the technology so much the same on these cars. Elliott in number 9 comes up with a couple of brothers and a dad who has a sincere interest in racing, and he out-engineers everyone. I think that's the incredible story here today.
Oh, there's no question about it. And I'll tell you, there's a guy by the name of Ralph Moody that was so prominent in this sport for so many years ago. He was a sort of a right-arm engineering guy for Ford when they were in racing, when they had the full factory teams. And his philosophy was always keep the race car as simple as possible, keep it as stock as you possibly can, make the wheels track and not offset and do a lot of things that others try to do, and you'll get the most out of it. That's the philosophy that the Elliott's try to use, and boy, it pays off for them.
So as matters stand, Neil Bonnett for the moment has the lead. Greg Sachs finds himself in second, and Bill Elliott is looking up from under in 3rd place for the first time today. For the moment, Neil Bonnett in car number 12 leads the Daytona 500. This moment comes at lap 152. Elliott is in second place in the same lap. In the interval, Ned?
About 20 seconds, but Neil Bonnett seems to be having an incredibly good fuel consumption.
He has been running a little longer today than most of the other cars. He'll be coming in before too long. Now, Ken, even though Elliott made a 40-some second pit stop, he remained in the lead lap because he was more than 30 seconds ahead before he came in.
And Waltrip stays third.
Waltrip is in third place in the lead lap, but he too has a pit stop coming up. He and Bonnie both will be coming into pits before too long.
Chris Economaki is standing by with Mrs. Waltrip.
Down here, Dale Waltrip's pit. Stevie, you got a second? He was 23rd early, now he's third. What's making the difference?
Elliott's pitted and we haven't.
You know, big news for the Waltrips this week. The doctor said that Stevie is going to become a mother. Are you happy about the new developments in the family?
I really am. Daryl and I are really excited about becoming parents in October.
You know, that means you won't be sitting in this chair next season. Very busy doing her clerical work, keeping tabs on. Will you be able to do this work next year?
Well, I hope to.
Okay, good luck, Stevie Waltrip. And her husband coming on the late stages of this year's Daytona 500.
Jeff Bodine on pit road, running currently in 9th position. Fueling car, number 5, the Harry Hyde car. Rick Hendrick's team out of Charlotte, North Carolina.
And they're also changing the left side tires on that car, Ken, while they fill it up with gasoline as Neil Bonnett continues to circle the track.
I can't understand. I just can't believe the fuel consumption he's getting out of that compared to Bill Elliott. It looks like he's coming in this lap.
Well, David, he has been running about 4 or 5 laps farther each time, and so as that goes on, you know, that builds up. He is coming into the pits right now.
And the 10th place car, Rusty Wallace, has just pitted as well. Wallace has come on pit road. Now you're watching Neil Bonnett in number 12, trying to win his first Daytona 500, come to a halt.
Pitting right in front of car number 95, that's Sterling Marlin, who has run a very good race here today in car number 95.
And Elliott retakes the lead. Bill Elliott flashes across the line, so he'll be back in first place. Good pit stop on Neil Bonnett. Whatever work they did on that Neil Bonnett car, going back to that qualifying motor, has kept him right up in it. But he's still a distance away from the performance of the Elliott family of Georgia.
Bonnie gets back out into the thick of it, where he had about a 20-second lead. He's perhaps going to be at least that far behind Bill Elliott now, but that'd be a...
Darrell Waltrip's coming in now, the third place car making this pit stop. Oops, locking up the rear brakes.
Brakes a little, trying to get that one woed.
Flat spotting the rear tire.
Best finish second back in '79 for Darrell Waltrip here in the 500, the two-time Grand National champion.
And a little different strategy on that team, Ken. They're changing the left side tires as opposed to the right side that we saw them change on others. Of course, the last pit stop, Waltrip did take on the right side tires, but now they put on the left side. He has that service and is away.
You saw the white-haired gentleman there in the red sweater. Won this race back in 1960, 25 years ago. Junior Johnson, whose cars are very much in this race. But they're having to chase this man, Bill Elliott, in car number 9, who has just smashed record after record. Here's one for you. At the 150 lap mark, 375 miles, the old record for this race was set by Bobby Allison in 1980 at 174.14. The new record is 182.260.
That's a fair old clip for a Sunday afternoon drive, and it looks like he's got about a 26-second lead on Neil Bonnett, who's lying in second spot.
Youngest driver in the field, Bobby Hillen out of Midland, Texas, getting a draft here as he comes back to the line. Bobby Hillen stayed in it and runs now in 7th position.
It's a very good run for him, and that has to be a thrill for him running behind a veteran like Darrell Waltrip and being able to run up with him. But he has a crew chief on that car, Ken, Jake Elder, who has made his rounds in this sport, but he's had a great influence on a lot of drivers, including the one running right in front of Bobby Hill and Darrell Waltrip, and that's a big help to him.
Bobby Hillen, of course, is only, 20 years old, very, very young. Came here last year, didn't quite make the field, but looking pretty good this year.
Bobby Hillen was asked if he thought by racing at age 20 if he was missing something instead of doing what other people that age do.
Well, I feel like I'm in with a tough bunch of guys, and I feel like it's a good opportunity for me to learn, because all these guys that are in their 40s and late 40s, they know so much, and if I can just go out there and learn what they've got to teach me out there, when I get into my late 20s and early 30s, I can really use that and hopefully be a tough race car driver.
Bobby Hillen And currently, the update is that he has pulled himself up into the 7th position overall of the field. Bobby Hillin in car number 8. Number 9, still out in front. The question, perhaps, is fuel consumption here. The Elliots may know something others don't. Let's go to Chris Economaki.
Well, down here in Darrell Waltrip's pit, he stopped with 44 laps to go. The car can only get 40 laps out of one tank full. That's 4 laps short of going to the end. It's going to be a tough break for Darrell Waltrip. You have to stop in those closing laps and get that splash of gas. 100 miles is about all most of these cars can get on a tank full of fuel. Some, however, get 1 or 2 laps more, but not number 11. Back to you, Ken.
All right, Chris, here is number 9. Elliott coming around with 100 miles to go, and he crosses the line this time. There's the second place car, Neil Bonnett, his Chevrolet trailing at Ford. And there should be number 75 running in third, Lake Speed, who has never finished this race. Every time he's come, he's had mechanical failure, an accident in 82, an engine failure in 83. Push rod went out last year on it. But right now, he's in there looking for a good finish, maintaining third.
And here's the Chrysler product of Morgan Shepherd in the pits with the hood up on it, the only Chrysler product in the field. He's driving the car that fans have been accustomed to seeing Buddy Arrington at the wheel for so many years, but Arrington now just wants to be a car owner.
Old Petty car, that one, and Morgan was really having trouble adjusting to that car. A lot of pushing it for the way he's used to driving in the Fords and Chevys. He says he's really impressed with the engine on it. Caution is coming out. Caution is coming out. Car up in turn number 4, just resting on the bottom of the track, trying to bring himself in. Dave Marcus.
Now then, I wonder if this is a ruse to get Neil Bonnett to put some gas in now, because with 39 laps to go, he could probably just make it to the end, and I don't think that Bill Elliott can do it in 39 laps.
Depending on how many caution laps we would run here, David, of course they don't use nearly as much fuel during a caution lap as they do. Apparently, the car number 71 ran out of gas. We saw him slow down on the backstretch a little bit ago, and Dave Marcus apparently tried to stretch it a little too far. And Dave had gotten himself up in the top 10, was running a good race here today. He's another of the top independents.
He's still running. I can't believe they brought the caution out for him. There must be something else on the racetrack, or else they are trying to bunch up the field. Dave Marcus, one of the hardened veterans of Grand National Racing. You saw him begin to have trouble on the back straightaway. There's Terry Labonte's car back in another time.
Well, it's behind the wall now, I think, that car. They've really got fed up with it this time, pushed it behind the wall again.
Dave Marcus's best finish here at Daytona, a pair of 6th-place efforts in 75, back when he drove for Harry Hyde. Jeff Bodine has him this year, and 78 for the Australian team. And all the leaders are on pit road. Number 9 is in. Elliott coming in. Here's Waltrip making his way onto pit road. Richard Brooks in the number 1, who's running in 7th place. Here's Mike Joy.
Neil Bonnett brings his car in, has to thread the needle between 2 pits, almost gets a piece of Sterling Marlin. And again, they'll put right side tires on the car. They should be able to go the distance on fuel this time. A wipe of the windshield and right tires, and Bonnett will be back out. Let's go down to Chris.
Okay, I'm at Darrell Waltrip's pit. Now, this will be the last stop for this car, unless it's the yellow flag. 97.5 miles remain. They changed the outside tires. They're rolling the inside tires in. Okay, down to you, Mike Joy.
Will be a 4-tire change for Neil Bonnett, taking advantage of the caution flag and make sure that he's got 4 fresh sneakers to go the distance. This is the fastest potential combination of tires they can put on the car. 4 fresh ones to run the distance.
Bill Elliott out already, and they all can make it home from here.
Yeah, I think they can. As David said earlier, it'll be very close as far as Elliott is concerned. But if they run a couple or 3 laps here under caution, David, not burning much fuel, I think he can go the rest of the way.
But I wouldn't think they would have many laps under the caution, would you?
Dave Marcus's car has been pushed in by a truck. 2nd caution of the day. Let's go to Chris Economaki.
Talk about luck. When that yellow flag came out, Darrell Waltrip had a flat tire. Had it not been yellow, he would have had to stop and change this under green, and it certainly would have cost him a shot at victory. So he got the bad brakes at the top of the race and the lucky brakes in the closing lap. Back to you, Ken.
So we're getting ready to resume the 1985 Daytona 500 with less than 100 miles to go. Stand by for the finish live. At lap 164, the green flag has just been unfurled another time over Bill Elliott, leading the 1985 Daytona 500. Youngest driver in the field, Bobby Hillen, car number 8, is on pit road, having problem back with the leaders. The second place car now is Neil Bonnett, third is Lake Speed, and dropping a lap back is Darrell Waltrip.
When he made that green flag pit stop, that put him a lap back. And Ken, this is the first time today that Neil Bonnett has seen Bill Elliott as far as being close to him. He's been running back in the pack all day long. Let's see if he can run with him in the draft.
There you see Elliott first, Neil Bonnett right with him. They both have gone back to qualifying motors, the ones that usually run just about 10 miles and say good night. Here they are. They've rebuilt them. The number 9 car was the same motor that went 205 plus miles an hour in qualifying. The number 12 car and the motor that ran well over 200 miles an hour in qualifying, rebuilt for today's performance. And here they are in the back straightaway, and Bonnett wants to take a shot at first place.
Well, he does. I don't know if he's testing it out for a later move. He's got help from his teammate, Darrell Waltrip, but they just blew by. First time since Cale Yarborough passed him early in the race, he's been passed.
Waltrip makes up his lap. Waltrip now goes back into that.
No,
he was a lap down.
Bonnett's the leader of the race now, so that still leaves him a lap down.
Behind to Neil Bonnett.
Right. But here comes Elliott right back around Waltrip. We're going to have some fun here.
Do you think that Bonnett will let his teammate make up the lap out here?
No.
I doubt it.
Absolutely not.
He got by the 9, but he has to get by the 12. Waltrip, with a little bit of assistance, now runs out of it. 166 complete. Won't get much assistance from Neil Bonnett. He is determined to win this race.
Well, Neil Bonnett and Terry Labonte were the only two guys to put up a really big fight on Thursday in the 125-mile qualifying heat. And Bonnett and Labonte have always been the two dark horses in this race. And of course, poor old Terry Labonte was sidelined some time ago.
Back to the line. They come to complete the 167th of 200 laps. Number 12. Neil Bonnett there, Bill Elliott in the second position.
Well, I don't know. I would assume that Bill Elliott would follow Neil Bonnett here to try and save his fuel, because he is a little bit more marginal on fuel than Neil Bonnett. And of course, he can always take that lead on the last lap, as we've seen done twice before.
Remember that Lake Speed, number 75, look at the boy. 75 is in third. Lake Speed is running in third in the lead lap. Junior Johnson.
Boy, he's excited.
Collected as ever. There you see Ricky Rudd mixing it up. There's a good battle going on for fourth among 5-6 automobiles.
Neil Bonnett trying to shake that draft. Looks like he's trying to shake him out of the draft, but some fat chance of that.
Yeah, I don't think there's any chance of that.
169 laps complete this time by. Here's Chris.
Okay, I'm down here with Junior Johnson. Junior, looks like your boys are trying to double team Bill Elliott there.
I don't think they're going to do much with that. It seems like when he gets ready to go, the way his car handles through the corners, he just goes. Neil seems can run with him when he's got cold tires on, but when his tires gets hot, he seems to get away from him.
Waltrip's come alive in the last 100 miles. What's happened there?
Well, to start with, his chassis was off, and like I said, when we finally got it adjusted, he's in pretty good shape now, but he got a lap down waiting to get it adjusted.
Okay, there's the words of Junior Johnson, the owner of cars number 11 and 12, driven by Darrell Waltrip and Neil Bonnett.
Ricky Rudd is now fourth, the white and red number 15, the Bud Moore Ford. There are the leaders, Bonnett, number 12, Elliott, number 9. One lap down, running for fourth. There you see Ricky Rudd, followed by Darrell Waltrip and Greg Sachs, very much in it. Waltrip on the inside makes a move on Ricky Rudd going to turn 3. And Greg Sachs nestles right down in there, tries to come through as well.
Last year, Ken, Junior Johnson's cars finished 3rd and 5th in this race. Waltrip with 3rd, and Neil Bonnett was in 5th place, and he has 2 of them running in the top 5 now. One leading the race, and now Waltrip has moved into the 4th position.
30 laps to go. Bonnett still first, Elliott in second. Third spot, Lake Speed in the 75, a Raymock car. Let's check in on Jeff Bodine. Still out here and trying. 10th position now on Jeff Bodine, number 5. And even the leaders are spattered. vision begins to go away at this time in the race.
Yes, it does. Those windshields really get pitted, and the sun beaming in on them. It gets a little tough to see. Your eye seems to adjust to it. Let me correct myself. Neil Bonnett finished 4th in that race last year behind Darrell Waltrip.
17 cars are reported out from the 40 that started. 17 out. Bonnett and Elliott squaring off to decide the Daytona 500.
I think the man to watch in this lead group now, which includes cars at a lap, is going to be Greg Sachs, because he's really going to be pushing hard here, and he looked very loose coming through turn 4 a couple of laps ago. So I think it'd be worth keeping our eye on young Gregory.
For another observation, let's go to Mike Joy.
Dale Inman, Terry Labonte's out of the race. What happened?
Well, we lost the clutch on the racetrack to start with. We brought it in, readjusted that, but it had got hot before. Then that last stop, it wouldn't go in gear, so we had to give it some more free travel, and it finally just went away on us completely.
Neil Bonnett, Bill Elliott, Lake Speed, Greg Sachs. Who's your pick to win this one? You watched most of it from pit road.
Well, I think Elliott will still pull the thing off, but I know Neil Bonnett's an awful determined young man, so who knows, he might just have enough to get by him the last lap, but Bill's been awful strong all day, and I think it'll be between those two.
Well, that's the crew chief that's been to victory lane more than anybody else. Back to Ken.
Car number 1 seems to be slowing down. Car number 1 may be bringing out a caution in turn number 2. That is the Maurice Petty car. Ford, tire down for Richard Brooks.
Now this is where Darrell Waltrip will want to try and lead across the line to get
Here they are racing back to the line out of turn number 4. And I don't think he has a place to go.
And the caution is out, and Waltrip can't pass Elliott nor Bonnett, so he'll stay one lap down.
Here you see the tire off from...
Amazing, that thing just sitting there, Ken. And I guess that came off of the car number 1.
Must be real sticky.
Yeah. Talking about sticking to the turns, it's really doing that.
So Bonnett stays first. Elliott stays second. Third caution of the day. 17 of 40 have retired from the event. Here's Richard Brooks pulling onto pit road. Third caution of the afternoon.
Minus 1 wheel.
Strategy here.
They'll come in again for a tire change. And of course, that, as far as them being able to go the rest of the way now, that all goes out the window. There'll be no question about that. Dick Brooks takes the car number 1 into the garage area. He knew that apparently too much damage was done to the suspension when it dropped down on the pavement, so he's going to be out of it.
Richard Brooks, first Grand National race he ever saw was the 1969 Daytona 500, and he watched it from behind the wheel of a Plymouth car. Finished 32nd that year. His best finish, 1973, a Cotton Owens Dodge. Next to last race for the Cotton Owens Dodge. Let's go to Mike Joy quickly.
Bill Elliott is on pit road. His crew chief Ernie was concerned they might not have enough gas to go the distance. No more concern now. They can easily run the route if they get a full tank of gas here under caution. Again, it's right side tires, a cleaning of the grill. In fact, Butch Stevens hauls that jack around to the left side of the car, and they'll take on 4 fresh tires. Down to Chris Economaki.
All right, Darrell Waltrip is taking on 4 new tires. He got fresh tires about 5 minutes ago. This is called in racing parlance rebuilding the car for that stretch drive to the finish. All fresh, clean windshield, and away goes Darrell Waltrip.
Big rush back onto the track as Bill Elliott and Neil Bonnett get out there. Darrell Waltrip.
Neil Bonnett carving up his teammate as they leave the as they leave pit lane now.
I'll tell you, they race every ounce of the way, whether it's on pit road or out on the racetrack.
175 laps complete next time by, and there will be 25 to go.
Well, this should make it a real tremendous NASCAR down to the wire finish. All got new rubber. They've all got top. No one's going to run out of gas. This is going to be a tremendous finish.
Again, I'm sure that the fans, they saw all the drivers come in not too long ago and took on new tires. Why would they come back in again this quickly? Well, the cool, fresh tires will run faster. When one driver comes in and changes those tires, the others have to if they're going to expect to stay in the draft and have a shot at it. Car number 51, Greg Sachs, did not come in. He's back in the lead lap.
We'll be back with more live flag-to-flag coverage of the 27th annual Daytona 500 after these words from your local station. Speedway, we're just about a lap away from resumption of the Daytona 500. The circumstances have changed a bit. The question still is, as we look at the view from the Goodyear blimp of this great facility, can this Elliott car maintain this pace, which has seen records shattered all afternoon? Perhaps an answer here from Ernie Elliott. Mike Joy?
Well, fuel is no longer a factor, Ernie. You won on Father's Day on CBS. You won a couple more times during the 1984 season. What would it mean to the Elliott family to win the great American race here today?
Winning Daytona, there's nothing like it. I mean, we never won it, so it'd be hard for us to say, but I'm sure there's nothing like winning Daytona. I mean, I think that's basically every racer's goal in life is to win at Daytona. And we're just going to try to pull it off today if we can.
How old were you when you first dreamed of bringing a car here and winning this race?
Oh, I don't know. I used to come here with Daddy in 64, 65, so I was pretty small then, so I guess then.
Well, he would have had to sneak under the fence then to get to pit road, and today he may go to victory lane. Let's go to Chris.
At the last pit stop, most of the leaders stopped and took on tires, but Greg Sachs, who's number 51, is at the head of the lineup right now, stayed out there. The difference between having the old tires on and the new tires on is only a difference for about 4 to 6 laps. The cars with the new tires can go faster for only 4 to 6 laps, and then they settle down to the same speed. I'm told here by drivers that a new set of tires after they're 5 laps old are no faster than tires that have 70 or 80 miles on them. So what Greg Sachs did was stay out to get up front on the track. The other drivers came in and got tires so they could go a little bit faster for a short period of time. Back to you, Ken.
And it saved about $600 in the process.
Well, this is the point, of course, and the rule is about to be instituted where you can't change all 4 tires under the caution, and of course it will help teams, I guess, like Greg Sachs. It'll save them some money over the year.
Comes in effect at Richmond, where they race next. They go to Richmond, Virginia a week from now, back to the old roots of racing on a half-mile track where you had a checkered flag.
These guys have had $2,000 worth of tires in about the last 7 minutes.
Per car. All right, restart from inside Jeff Bodine's car. You're in the 8th place car. Lap down, 2 laps down actually, as they come back to the line. Pace car is coming in. Here's Bodine taking his shot on the inside. You see the orange car and white down the inside, sneaking under number 90 and pulling up alongside Joe Ruckman as he tries to squeeze off some cars into that first turn. Bill Elliott is the overall leader. Neil Bonnett is in second. Lake Speed is in third. They all run in the lead lap. A lap down in 4th is Greg Sachs, with Buddy Baker still out here shooting it out in 5th. Ricky Rudd is in 6th. Waltrip in 7th. Back straightaway. And look at this performance of Bill Elliott. Drawing away another time. Just leaving the field.
Fed up with pussyfooting around. He's going to get serious now. No more Mr. Nice Guy. This is it.
Bill Elliott first came to Daytona in 1978. And he became popular immediately. Underdog, he finished 5th in the 125-miler and came in 8th in the 500. The following year, the good-natured kid didn't even qualify for the 500. One of the more disappointing moments in his entire racing career. But he certainly has made some kind of comeback and has finished no worse than 12th in 6 500 starts. And here he is, riding records today in the 27th Annual 500.
And look at him pull away, Ken. Before, Bonnett was able to stay with him in the draft and then did pass him. But now, as David says, no more fooling around. The time is here. You got the chips are down, so go after it.
No more Mr. Nice Guy.
But he is a nice guy.
Oh, yeah, he is.
He looks like he still ought to be delivering papers rather than racing cars.
Him and Butch Raymond look like they should be playing compass together.
Bill Elliott down into turn number 1. Tweaked the lap at over 205 miles per hour to put this car on the pole, and it hasn't backed up yet. It won the 125-mile qualifier. Only 2 previous drivers, Fireball Roberts and Cale Yarborough, have won all 3 in speed weeks. The pole position, the qualifying race, and the 500. This could be the 3rd driver. From the Goodyear blimp, there's an indication of just how much power this number 9 has as it draws away past the backstretch grandstand and heads into turn number 3. 20 laps, 50 miles to go. This time by for Bill Elliott in what will be one of the most remarkable performances in the history of this race by any individual.
No question about it, Ken. We have to think back to the days of Fireball Roberts when he was so dominant here in speed and driving cars for Smokey Unick and Ray Fox and some of the great mechanics of that day.
And Petty, wasn't it 64, 66 when he walked away from the field? But not seldom seen one like this here at Daytona. It's always been nose to tail. Here's Bill Elliott drawing away again, and he seems to be able to handle the field any way he wants them.
Unbelievable the way the car has continued to drive well through the turns all day long. The track has gotten a lot slicker than when the green flag dropped earlier today because it's a little oil, grease, and water, and rubber on the turns hasn't affected the handling qualities of that car, and certainly nothing has affected the horsepower, David.
You've only got to watch it go through that turn now. It's absolutely steady as a rock, just like it was on Thursday afternoon, and you watch some of the other guys going through, they're having a lot more of a handful.
Those fans are happy about it. They like to see that young man out front.
Just a few years ago, the Elliott brothers, all three of them, used to take some junker cars. Their dad was in the car business, George. And they used to run them around in a field out back. And one would pretend he was Richard Petty, and one would pretend that he was Cale Yarborough, and one would pretend he was Bobby Allison, and they would go at it. And now, here they are leading the field. All those big names have already fallen by the wayside. Elliott's last lap,
198.6 miles an hour.
Oh, my heart. I mean, this is late in the race, 198.6 hops. That's getting the program.
Yeah, he's really laying back now, isn't he? I mean, he's conserving the machinery, and he's obviously, the car's had the legs in the field the whole week.
Fourth place battle here. That's the 15 car of Ricky Rudd. Sandwiched right in there is the 88 car. Lake Speed is in between them. He is third. The white and blue, number 75, is third place overall. 15. That is Ricky Rudd. What a comeback he made last year, crashing so violently here in Daytona and then going on to win the next time out at Richmond. And there's the 88 car. What a story on Baker. Decides to form his own team. Comes out here, and Buddy Baker is still very much a part of the story, running in 5th position.
The only former Daytona 500 winner in the field, even though he's a lap off the pace. He has run a very good race, and he got that lap behind, Ken, when he overshot his pits early in the race, took some extra time, and he got a lap down and just simply never been able to make it up, but he's run with the leaders ever since.
And they're hanging on to Neil Bonnett, who's a lap ahead of them, but they are racing very successfully with Neil Bonnett, who's in 2nd spot.
And that little move right there, helping Lake Speed to move around the car number 15 that they passed, is going to put Speed in a position to challenge Bonnett here very shortly.
You are watching what appears to be the fastest 500 race in history. They can all stay together on this car, number 9, Bill Elliott. There's the interval,
which is now up to 4 seconds.
Neil Bonnett about 4 seconds back in 2nd place. Unofficially, we have 18 cars of the 40 that started out of the race, building up to about half the field. They've gone back to the garage area early with the incredible speeds that have been turned out as everyone has been forced to chase car number 9. Sometimes in the old factory days, when you were racing, Ned, they'd send one car out as a rabbit to try to force the others into going that fast. This is a one-man rabbit performance out here today.
I'll tell you, if he's been the rabbit there, the dogs have had a tough time out here today.
He has led 124 laps.
Unbelievable in today's competition. You just could not believe that one man could do that, but he set the trend when he ran 205 here in qualifying a week ago yesterday.
Not so much one man, but one family from a small town in northern Georgia dominating the great American race. Bill Elliott, can he stay with it and win it? 188 of 200 laps complete as Bill Elliott flashes across the line, leading the Daytona 500 after dominating. When they qualified on the pole last Saturday, the Elliott brothers are pretty quiet, particularly Ernie. Ernie was standing around and the press was all over him. He turned to the side and said, 4 years ago, no one would talk to me. And his brother Dan said, 4 years ago, we weren't running 205 miles an hour. Let's go to Mike Joy with him now.
Ernie Elliott's just picked up a stopwatch, and he's reading the interval to his brother. Did you pull the pin and turn him loose, or is he setting his own pace?
No, he's just pretty much running like he wants to right now.
Are you comfortable with that big a lead, or would you rather he back off it just a bit and save the car? Or is it his show?
Well, he's just doing whatever he feels like's necessary, so, you know, we'll just have to wait and see.
It's all in Bill Elliott's hands now. Let's go to Chris Economaki.
I'm with Tim Brewer, Neil Bonnett's crew chief. 11 laps to go, Tim, and 8 seconds. Is it hopeless?
Well, it's not hopeless, Chris. It's not over yet. Something can happen to Elliott, you know, heaven forbid. But, you know, still, yeah, we'd take it either way. You know, he's been awful dominant, been coming down here for a lot of years. He's definitely got the strongest car I've ever seen here.
Okay, there you have it. minute from Neil Bonnett's crew chief. Live in hope along the pitch at Daytona International Speedway. Back to you again.
Thanks, Chris. Third spot is number 75, Lake Speed. He maintains the third position. There you see him in the white and blue car. And in the fourth position over now is the car just in front of him, a lap down, number 88. That is Buddy Baker. Then just behind, is Greg Sachs in the 51 car trying to hold on to it. Ricky Rudd is back to 6th. Waltrip is 7th. Bodine is 8th. Bobby Hillen is in 9th. Wesley Wallace is in 10th. Sterling Martin 11th. And the only rookie, Ken Schrader, is up to 12th. Mike Alexander is running 13th on the field. But it's still Bill Elliott, biggest story of the Daytona 500 for 1985.
Well, I think Tim Brewer said it there, Ken. That's the strongest car that he had ever seen here. And I'll tell you, it's been a long time since we've seen a car that dominant at Daytona.
But don't go away. You know, the final 10 laps here, they've been strange at Daytona. Baker lost 2 500s in the final 6 laps. Trouble at turn number 1. Trouble going to turn number 1, number 48, spinning, looping. Lenny Pond, the Virginian, taking over the car that Trevor Boyce drove a year ago, is bringing out the caution flag.
And the strategy once again goes down the drain. They'll all be coming back into the pits, taking on tires again, and it'll be a new run.
And it will probably be, these laps, of course, are counting laps, a run of just 2 or 3 laps to the finish between 3 men. Bill Elliott, Neil Bonnett, and Lake Speed. There's Lenny Pond, the Virginian, who won a 500-mile race at Talladega. At that time, the fastest 500-mile race ever run at some 174 miles per hour.
And now he sits there completely stalled on the racetrack. Let's see what happened to him as he went down towards turn 1. We see Pond moving around in the car, just waiting to get some help now with the tires flat on it. As he comes out the front straightaway, those cars passed him on the outside and apparently pulled the back end of it around. Then we see the tires blow on the car. And amazingly, Ken, it stays down off of the wall. He is really turning that steering wheel. You can see him, David, as he cranks that steering wheel and then brings it to a halt there.
He did a very good job there. Didn't back into the wall. And he was also lucky that when he got sideways, it didn't lift. It was just on the edge of lifting up, but it didn't quite fly. So Lenny Pond pretty lucky, but very disappointed this close to the end of the race. And as you say, all the strategies are going to change now. All these tires, when they put these new tires on, you just want a 16th of an inch or an 1/8 of an inch wrong stagger, and you can be really out to lunch.
Elliott on pit road.
No surprise to see him coming on the pit road, and Mike Joy is there.
Well, the Elliott crew had a look at Neil Bonnett go by, staying on the racetrack. Elliott will have to come up from the back of the line. Be a routine stop. They're under caution. They're in no hurry. And Ernie Elliott checking with folks back behind the pit wall as they put right side tires on Bill Elliott's car and now come around to attend to the left side tires. Elliott has a cup of water, and he's tossed that out the right side window. He looks very calm and collected as he sits behind the wheel of that 200-horsepower machine and knows that it will be just a couple of laps shootout to decide a 500-mile race.
Well, Neil Bonnett, I think, sold him a dummy there. Neil Bonnett headed towards the pits, then right at the last minute, he pulled out.
What he's gambling on, David, is that the wrecker will break down out there, and it'll take a long time to get that car to pull in. He knows that with 4 fresh tires, that Bill Elliott will be able to come up and pass him, but maybe something will happen. Maybe it'll take a while to get that car off the track.
That's how Pearson lost to Hamilton in 1970. Remember, there were only 2 tires changed.
All right, here they are as they were coming down pit road. You see, Bonnett was right behind him, and then he pulls out and decides not to do it. Now, whether that was his own decision or whether the team manager, Tim Brewer, said, hey, stay out there, and anyway, he did stay out there.
192 laps are now complete. Bonnett in number 12 will be deployed up in front.
Well, they delay this for a couple more laps. That won't give him enough time to get through.
No, indeed.
The wrecker, of course, is not breaking down. He's got that car off of the track. We didn't really expect it to.
Didn't we?
Well, Ned, think back. Buddy Baker lost 2 500s, final 6 laps, both in 73 and 78, when the engine came apart, and he had the race won. And your old pal LBJ, Little Bobby Johns, came out here one time, and he spun from the lead in 60 with just a few laps to go in this race and gave Junior Johnson the win that year. And then back in 1979, when we first came out here, Richard Petty won the race after a little incident up in turn number 3 between Donnie Allison and Cale Yarborough.
So he was out of it.
As famous baseball mentor once said, it ain't over till it's over.
No. Well, they get the signal for 1 more lap to go, so they're going to have about 6 laps here to hammer it out.
When the checkered flag drops, is the only time you know you've won the race.
That's right. Let's also point out the fact that Lake Speed did come in, and he took on 4 tires too, so he has fresh tires. We'll see if that will give him an advantage over the car number 7, over the car number 12.
I think the record may have gone away with this caution period. The record, 4th caution of the day, may have slipped away from us, but 3 have been broken. Here's Mike Joy with Ernie Elliott.
Ernie, would you have stopped whether or not Neil Bonnett came onto pit road?
Yeah, we were stopping.
Either way?
Either way.
So obviously it was not a feint. The Elliots were poised to stop and take on those 4 fresh tires.
I think it was a precautionary measure, again, that they stayed out there. And the fact that NASCAR lines them up 2 abreast, those are lap cars down on the inside that we see. And so we see the first 3 place cars that are right in a line there. So it's not like that you have to go back completely to the rear end of the field.
And you see the 4th place car on the inside, number 51, Greg Sachs. He's a lap down, and directly behind him should come the man that he is trying to counterattack from, Buddy Baker, along with Darrell Waldrop running in 6, Ricky Rudd in 7th in those positions.
There's Sterling Marlin. He's run a beautiful race here today, but it looks like he's going to be out of it in the car number 95.
Half the field is retired, more than half now. That's the 21st car out.
Sterling Marlin, who we just see being pushed away there, qualified at an extremely high speed.
198 plus.
Yeah, very good.
Well, here's a team that started literally in a schoolhouse. This number 9 Bill Elliott team. They bought an old schoolhouse, and they used to build the engines in the 1st grade, and they used to build the chassis in what had been either the 2nd grade or the 3rd or something over there, Dawsonville, Georgia. I understand they're in new digs these days. But
well, they've got high grades today.
Oh, they certainly have. Here they are under a green flag and trying to get all A's as we come down to the finish. And Bodine makes a dive on the inside as he's still trying to get some laps back and nearly gets tangled up on number 75, Lake Speed. That's Jeff Bodine going up to give us a view of those front automobiles as we decide the 1985 Daytona 500. Off they go, squaring off in these final moments to decide it all. Bonnett gets the jump. There you see Elliott in 2nd place. From Jeff Bodine's view.
Now you see Elliott in 1st place.
Yeah, he didn't wait long. And he won't wait long to move away either.
Let's go to Chris Economack as to why Bonnett did not pit.
We asked Tim Brewer, why didn't you stop? He says, why should we?
Oh, Neil Bonnett's got a problem. Neil Bonnet's got a problem in the front oval here.
He's spinning. Neil Bonnett out of control, almost into the wall. This is the first wall, still trying to collect it back.
It looked to me like his tires went flat. The front tire started to smoke violently as he came into the trial.
That's his wife, Susan, there, and you can see the disgust on her face after him running such a beautiful race all day, and now to see him slide out through there. She doesn't really know what kind of condition he's in. We saw him that he's okay, but she doesn't know that at the moment. Here's Bonnie crawling out of the car. What a disappointing.
Here they are racing back to the line. They are coming back to the line. Number 9, Bill Elliott, will be in front. There'll be 196 laps complete. Elliott is across the stripe. 4 laps remain. They can be run under caution. The track looks like it may be clear.
Apparently the engine let go on his car, Ken, because he didn't hit anything as he went out through there. I don't know how he missed those walls, but he would have cranked it up and tried to come around if the engine would not have blown up.
Let's take a look at replay at the last moments of the hopes of Neil Bonnett to somehow pull out the Great American Race.
Of course, he's running behind Elliott in the 2nd position, and we see the smoke come from the car. Yes, the engine does blow. The wheels, the rear wheels, gets in its own oil and water. It turns crossways through the grass, back onto the paved area at the end of the pit road, then down, almost clipping that wall. It looked like he was going into it, but he got it by it.
Replay from inside a car directly behind him, that of Jeff Bodine.
Okay, here's the way that Jeff Bodine saw it as they come through the tri-oval here and head out towards turn 1, and you see all of that smoke. Now, Bodine, you know, he didn't even know where he was going. He couldn't see very well. Of course, he did get to the outside of the track, and Bonnie's car spun to the inside of the track.
And a 3rd replay. Coming to the tri-oval, you can see the engine let loose, just shy of the start-finish line. Car starts to turn sideways. And the hopes of Neil Bonnett for a strong finish here slide into the infield. Here's Neil Bonnett taking truly the longest walk in sports, still waving, still a great showman. Jeff Bodine, Ken Squire at CBS Control. Do you read us?
Yeah, go ahead, Ken.
What kind of a day has it been for you? We thought you were going to be stout and strong from the very beginning and fell back early.
Well, we've had a busted ratchet all day. We've had trouble during the week practicing, and a ratchet has broken our rear end, and we just can't seem to get the car dialed in to go where we wanted to, and we just avoided Neil Bonnett's accident. We feel pretty lucky today to get this Levi here and Exxon Motor Oil Beneficial Finance car through all this, and we're going to just go home and take this finish, if we can finish these last few laps, and try to get the thing ready next time we come back here to Daytona. But this track is awful tough, it's awful hard, and you've seen all these cars drop out today. That just shows you how tough a track it is. So if you can just finish here at Daytona, I guess you got to count your blessings and just come back next time and try a little harder.
Thank you very much, Jeff. We'll be back for the finish of the 1985 Daytona 500 in just a few moments. Neil Bonnett. White and green will be shown to the field. One lap, and it will be over. Car number 9, Bill Elliott in front, number 75, Lake Speed in the lead lap. Let's go to Chris Economek.
Oh, Neil, that's the longest of all walks, isn't it?
I tell you what, Chris, I should be disheartened, but it's a good sign for what's coming this season. My guys give me a good race car today. And
what did you feel when it went?
Well, when that thing went, that's probably as sick as I've ever felt in my life. I just, I knew it was over, and I honestly thought we had a good shot there, but Bill's run exceptional. I'm just tickled to death the way the car ran.
Okay, thank you. Back to you, Ken Squire.
Down for the last lap. Elliott draws away. Lake Speed gets one more shot at Bill Elliott. No one's been able to contain Elliott all afternoon.
And one thing that Lake Speed didn't need was those cars running side by side with him. Of course, they were running for positions too, but he needed every clean shot that he could get to keep up with Elliott. He was not going to be able to do it.
Yeah, he wanted a bit of help there, but too late now.
First place, no contest given to Elliott. Battle will be for third. Lake Speed is in second. Battle will be Waltrip, Baker, Rudd beside that third position. There's Lake Speed right there. In the second position, Bill Elliott is on his way to his greatest race ever. A little looseness up in turn number 3. A couple of cars all the way sideways. Here they are coming back to the line. And after dominating all day, his crew out on pit road, Bill Elliott wins the 1985 Daytona 500. There you see Ernie Elliott. Dan Elliott standing there just to the left. What a moment. Lake Speed up to congratulate the winner of the Daytona 500, David Hobbs.
What a great result for Lake Speed, too. Half a second behind.
Wonderful race for Lake Speed. Born-again Christian who works as hard at his church as he does at his racing. He comes out here and has the best day he's ever had. Buddy Baker coming to a halt, and as they raced across the line, unofficially now in third spot, we have Waltrip and Baker for fourth and Rudd for fifth.
Well, Bill Elliott took the lead 8 times today and led for a total of 137 laps. Of course, his margin of victory was only a half a second. That doesn't seem like much compared to the way he ran.
If he had had a really lucky day, he could have won this race by, a couple of 3 laps.
This team worked 16 hours a day. They worked from November on. They said they literally took time to sleep, took time to eat, and to go to church on Sunday. And some of them even worked on Christmas Day. They split the shift up so they could be with their families to get that car here and to make it perform. And there you see Ernie Elliott, the man that put the engines together, and one of the brothers. Let's take a look at the replay right now, Ned, of how they came across the line. Or perhaps we'll get a chance to...
Well, Mike Joy is there with Ernie Elliott. Okay, here's the cars as they came across the start-finish line. Of course, there's Elliott way out front. Half a second, say way out front.
And there's Lake Speed for second. And there's third, going to Waltrip, and Baker for fourth.
So Darrell Waltrip had a pretty good day in the end, really, after a very bad start.
Bet your life. Let's go to Mike Joy.
Ernie Elliott, you folks have dominated every car here all week long. Could you be any happier than you are right now?
No, not really. Everything just went well. I just have to thank the good Lord for such a good day. I mean, such a good week. I mean, everything's went just, above your highest expectations. And, I credit all the crew because they worked so hard coming down here. We wanted this race so bad.
Everybody keep cool.
You know, you got to look at that $1 million that R.J. Reynolds put up, and this is the first leg in it. And I'd like to thank my sponsor, Coors, and our car owner, Harry Melling, and all of our family and friends that have supported us. I mean, you know, they've stood by us all the way.
Well, we'll let you get down to victory lane, and we'll go down there to Chris Economaki.
Okay, Bill Elliott is probably more crowded now than he's been on the track all day long. More hands and hats and help helping him get out of the car. Congratulations. He's probably wondering if it's worth it all right now. He looks very tired. He's sitting here trying to catch his breath. Unfastening his shoulder harnesses, cleaning his face a little bit before he steps out. It's his biggest win of his long career, and he certainly did dominate. But the big question is going to be for the next few months is whether Bill Elliott won this race or whether his car won the race. The car has been an outstanding piece of machinery, and it is agreed up and down pit road that no car has ever done as well against the competition as this particular machine has done. Here he is stepping out of the car. Hey, we talked to you just before you got in the car, and now we're talking to you just to get out. How tough was it, Bill?
Well, I'll tell you what, the car ran so good all day long, and Cale ran a heck of a race. I know I felt like he was going to be another car to beat. You know, when we started off there and he took off, and I let him set the pace, and, you know, I run along there, and those times I was running as hard as I could run, and he was leading the race. So, you know, he would have been a tough guy to beat at the end of the day. I was worried about him all day long.
I see the right front headlights there. They're all taped up. What happened there?
I don't really know. Evidently something happened to it, and they made us tape it up on one of the green flag stops.
Bill, I'm sure the question's going to be asked you later on is who won this race today, Bill Elliott or the Ford? Did a man win it or did a car win it?
Well, I think I got to give credit to the car because it absolutely ran like you couldn't believe.
Proud of him?
Yes, Lord, it was a hard race. I was nervous, Rick.
How are you going to celebrate tonight?
Probably go home and have a good rest.
Okay, there you have Bill Elliott, the winner, and his wife, crowded in victory lane. We may be back here a little bit later, but now back to you, Ken Squire.
Number one in his life, that's Star. His daughter joining Bill Elliott. The family gathered in victory lane after the Great American Race. We'll be back with more in a moment.